Chapter 3039. You also think it's fair? Madame Hua narrowed her eyes at Yang Kai, a cold light flashing in her eyes. It's quite fair. Yang Kai nodded. Since you think it's fair, then scram to the side. Madame will settle your account with you later. Madame Hua waved her sleeves and shouted impatiently. Yang Kai grinned. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the woman in front of him. The woman who was slapped by him was shocked when she saw this. She thought that Yang Kai was going to hurt her again, so she quickly retreated to the side. However, Yang Kai didn't seem to care about her at all. Instead, she seemed to be making a fuss over nothing. She covered her cheek with her hand and felt a burning sensation. She didn't know if it was because she was embarrassed or because she was slapped. With a splash, water splashed out. When Yang Kai withdrew his hand, a golden carp with a red body suddenly appeared in his hand. Golden-backed red carp. This was the golden-backed red carp that Madame Hua had raised for more than 10 years. No one saw how he grabbed the red carp in his hand. It seemed that he only stretched out his hand, and the red carp that Madame Hua called Little Red appeared in his hand. The woman holding the fish tank was obviously stunned. She looked at the red carp in Yang Kai's hand, and then looked at the fish tank she was holding. Her beautiful face suddenly turned pale, and she cried out in alarm. Ah! Madame Hua also reacted. Her face was extremely ugly. She shouted, "What are you doing? Hurry up and release Little Red." It's just a red carp. Do you think it's a treasure? In my eyes it's nothing. Yang Kai lightly sneered. Madame Hua suddenly had a bad premonition. Her expression changed and she said, "I'll count to 3. If you don't let go, then wait for death." After she finished speaking, she counted without any explanation. 1. Pooh. A muffled sound was heard at the same time. Madame Hua's pupils suddenly shrunk. Because under her gaze, Yang Kai's hand that was holding the red carp suddenly exerted force and directly killed Little Red. Although Little Red was a monster beast, it was only tier 5. How could it block Yang Kai's attack? Under the force of the big hand, the body directly exploded into 2 pieces. The head and tail of the fish fell to the ground one after another, revealing their original 3 zhang-long form. When they fell to the ground, they were already dead. Yuanwu sucked in a cold breath. He looked at Yang Kai like he was an idiot. He had not expected this guy to be so daring. A red carp was nothing, but that depended on whose red carp it was. This was Madame Hua's pet, a pet that had accompanied Madame Hua for more than 10 years. Previously, it was only injured by someone and lost 2 scales. Madame Hua had mobilized a large number of people to personally denounce it. Now that it was directly crushed to death, how could Madame Hua let it go? This brat was dead for sure. There was absolutely no way out. Yuanwu was overjoyed. He looked at Yang Kai with a gloating expression. He still remembered the hatred of being humiliated by Yang Kai a few days ago. He did not have the ability to take revenge, but if he could borrow Madame Hua's hand to kill him, it would be a good consolation. Lu Sanyang and her daughter were also dumbfounded. They did not have much contact with Yang Kai. They only knew that he was Li Jiao's friend, but they did not expect Yang Kai to be so daring. He did not put Madame Hua in his eyes at all. What should they do now? This matter could not be resolved peacefully. If it was the previous situation, at most they would be punished a little. Madame Hua would vent her anger, and it would be over. But now, she was extremely anxious. She blamed Yang Kai for being impulsive. She also hated that the trouble she and her daughter had caused had implicated Yang Kai. How would she explain this to Li Jiao in the future? You actually killed Little Red. The face of the woman holding the fish tank turned pale. She looked at Yang Kai in disbelief, wailing in her heart. Where did this lunatic come from? Did he not know the tragic consequences of doing this? The other woman was also stunned. She covered her cheek with her hand and could no longer feel the pain. Her entire body and mind were shocked by the scene in front of her. Everyone was shocked and had different expressions. The perpetrator did not have the slightest awareness that he had caused a great disaster. He only looked at Madame Hua with ridicule and sneered. You want an eye for an eye, but I don't know how you want to repay me now. Let me see. Madame Hua's chest suddenly rose and fell violently. Her beautiful face became extremely distorted as she hysterically shouted, "Kill him, kill him, kill him for me." She could no longer bear it. At first, She only wanted to seek justice for Little Red and teach the guy who injured her a lesson. After seeing Lu Sanyang and her daughter, she changed her mind and decided to ruthlessly humiliate this stinky woman who had competed with her for hundreds of years. But now, she only had Yang Kai in her eyes. She only wanted him to die. Little Red was killed in front of her eyes. Only by using this person's life could she quell the anger in her heart. She gave the order, but no one acted. Although the two women brought by Madame Hua were also Fu Qi's playthings, they were only at the level of the third order Dao Source realm. How could they have the courage to face Yang Kai, a first-order Emperor realm master? Moreover, judging from Yang Kai's performance just now, he was clearly a lunatic who could not be understood by common sense. At this time, they would only invite humiliation. So, the two women hesitated and did not act, but their expressions were very difficult. Madame Hua saw this and became even angrier. She gritted her teeth and shouted, "Why are you still not acting? Do you want this madam to do it herself?" If they really forced Madame Hua to do it herself, the two women were afraid that they would not be able to survive. The two women looked at each other helplessly, then pounced on Yang Kai together. Regardless of whether they were this young man's opponent or not, they had to act properly to avoid Madame Hua's revenge. In the blink of an eye, the two women attacked Yang Kai from both sides. Unfortunately, the two of them only had the cultivation of the third-order Dao Source realm. After living on Dragon Island for so many years, they had been blindly scheming against each other and had long forgotten how to fight. They could not even use 70% of their strength. Moreover, even if they could use their full strength, it was not enough in front of Yang Kai, who was in the Emperor realm. Before Yang Kai could do anything, the two women who had just pounced in front of him screamed miserably and were sent flying like rags. Blood spurted out from their bodies in midair. When they landed on the ground, their source chi had dissipated, and they did not even have the strength to stand up. "How dare you?" Madame Hua screamed. Her voice was sharp enough to tear people's eardrums. He had strangled Xiaohong to death and dared to injure the women of the spiritual island. Yang Kai's actions had exceeded Madame Hua's imagination. She was so angry that her entire body trembled. Her anger burned like a volcano, but she was used to living like a princess. No matter how angry she was, she did not plan to do it herself. She turned and glared viciously at Yuanwu. "What are you looking at? Kill him for this, madam." Yuanwu could not sit still. His expression was ugly. If he was Yang Kai's opponent, why would he need Madame Hua's orders? He would have already rushed forward to express his loyalty. Being able to establish a relationship with Madame Hua would definitely be beneficial to him. And this was the best opportunity for him to do so. But an opportunity was an opportunity. He had to have the ability to grasp it. A few days ago he had a conflict with Yang Kai. Facing this human who was one level weaker than him, he did not have the power to fight back. At that time, if Yang Kai was not willing to care too much, he would have died long ago. How could he still be standing here alive? This time, he had brought Madame Hua here to intimidate others. Who would have thought that Yang Kai would not even give face to Madame Hua? He killed Xiaohong and injured the two women she had brought. He was going crazy. Yuanwu did not have the guts to fight Yang Kai. He stammered out a word. Madame Hua said coldly, "You dare to not listen to this madam's orders. Fine, this madam will go tell Master Fu Qi now. Say that you are working together to bully me." "Madam, calm your anger." Yuanwu paled in shock. He cursed Madame Hua in his heart. He thought he had just come to join in the fun. How did he get involved? This was an unexpected calamity. His expression was panicked. If Madame Hua really reported this matter to Fu Qi, then his life would be over. He did not believe that a member of the dragon race would be willing to show mercy to him. In the eyes of the dragon race, his descendants were just ant-like bastards. They were existences that could be casually killed. What was this? What was this? If he had known earlier, he would not have come here. Now he was in a dilemma. Yuanwu wanted to slap himself. He could not easily offend Madame Hua. He could only look uneasily at Yang Kai. Yang Kai's cold eyes swept over. Yuanwu immediately shivered. He thought back to the scene of him being easily suppressed by Yang Kai's bloodline a few days ago. His eyes turned. Yuanwu shouted fiercely, Madame Hua, do not worry. Leave this matter to me. At the same time, he sent a message to Yang Kai. This Yuan had no choice. Little brother, please don't blame me. As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed his Emperor Qi and rushed towards Yang Kai. His actions were exactly the same as those of the two women before, as if they were cast from the same mold. Madame Hua showed a satisfied look and glared at Yang Kai viciously. She had lost a lot of face today, but it did not matter. As long as she could capture this little brat, she would be able to vent the anger in her heart. She could sense that Yang Kai's cultivation was the same as hers. They were both first-order Emperor Realm Masters, while Yuanwu was a second-order Emperor Realm Dragon descendant. The difference in strength between them was huge. Since Yuanwu had made a move, there was no possibility of failure. Madame Hua was already thinking about how to deal with Yang Kai later to vent the anger in her heart. You dare to kill Xiaohong? This madam will let you taste all the torture in the world. A scream rang out. Madame Hua was stunned in place, and the wishful thinking in her heart was shattered. Yuanwu, who had rushed towards Yang Kai aggressively, was inexplicably slapped and sent flying backwards. He spat out a mouthful of blood mid-air, which was dazzling under the sunlight. What happened? What is going on? Madame Hua could hardly accept what she had seen. Shouldn't it be Yuanwu who easily subdued that young man? Why was Yuanwu beaten back? What was going on? With a bang, Yuanwu fell to the ground. His body twitched a few times before he fainted. Madame Hua's face fell instantly. Chapter 30-40. Yuanwu was unconscious, and Madame Hua's face was ashen. The beach was quiet. After a while, Madame Hua shouted at Yuanwu, "What are you trying to do? Get up for this, madam." How could a second-order Emperor Realm Dragon descendant be knocked unconscious by a first-order Emperor Realm human? She concluded that Yuanwu was putting on an act. Although she didn't know the reason, Yuanwu was the only one she could order around right now, so she could only continue to give orders to him. Yuanwu didn't move, as if he had really fainted. Madame Hua took a few steps forward and kicked him hard, but Yuanwu still didn't react. "You're revolting." Madame Hua flew into a rage and was about to scold him again when her vision suddenly darkened. Looking up, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but shrink. Yang Kai was already standing in front of her, staring at her coldly. Madame Hua's heart tightened, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back, asking in horror, "What are you doing?" As soon as she finished speaking, her Emperor Qi surged, and she raised her hand to slap Yang Kai's chest. This slap seemed to have been planned for a long time, and it came without any warning. Coupled with the expression on Madame Hua's face and her actions just now, no one would have thought that she would suddenly attack. After the slap, Madame Hua's face showed a sinister smile. She was sure that Yang Kai wouldn't be on guard against her. Under the same cultivation level, she was confident that she could severely injure Yang Kai with a single blow. Sinister enough, I've learned something. Yang Kai coldly snorted, and also slapped out with his palm. This palm, however, arrived first, landing directly on Madame Hua's shoulder. "Wah!" Madame Hua cried out in surprise as she was sent flying. A bloody taste rushed up her throat, and instantly filled her mouth. At the same time, a sharp pain came from her shoulder, as if her bones had been broken. A violent force rushed into her meridians and spread to her 5 viscera and 6 organs, causing her Emperor Qi to become unstable. How is he so strong? Madame Hua's beautiful eyes widened. Both of them were first-order Emperor Realm Masters, but Madame Hua discovered that her opponent's strength was not something she could compare to. With just a single blow, she realized the huge gap between them. Her beautiful body fell heavily to the ground. Before she could get up, the light in front of her was blocked by a figure. She stared at him, and saw Yang Kai looking down at her with a sneer on his face. "You dare to hit me?" Shocked, Madame Hua forgot the pain on her shoulder, and stared at Yang Kai in disbelief. "Tell me, why don't I dare to hit you?" Yang Kai lifted his foot slightly and stepped on her chest, which immediately changed shape. Madame Hua was in pain, and her beautiful eyebrows were knitted together. Yang Kai's rhetorical question made her a little confused. "Why don't you dare to hit me? I am one of Fu Qi's most favored women. On this spiritual island, who dares to hit me? You're courting death." Madame Hua was completely enraged and frantically condensed her Emperor Qi, trying to resist, but under the suppression of Yang Kai's foot, even getting up was extremely difficult, let alone resisting. As she struggled, her hair was disheveled, making her look like a bitch who had been wronged. There was no longer any trace of beauty left in her, as her eyes were filled with hatred, and even her expression was extremely twisted. "You're about to die, and you still dare to talk big." Yang Kai coldly snorted, and exerted a little force on his foot. Madame Hua let out a low cry, and her face turned pale. Lu Sanyang also finally came back to her senses. Since Yang Kai killed the golden-backed red carp, the series of events had shocked her greatly. She was completely dumbfounded. Only when she felt Yang Kai's murderous intent did she suddenly come back to her senses. She quickly rushed forward and grabbed Yang Kai's arm, and whispered, Brother Yang, don't kill her. There is no one in this world who can't be killed." Yang Kai turned his head and glared at her, looking a little fierce. This was the first time Lu Sanyang had seen Yang Kai like this. The previous few times she had met Yang Kai, he had always been very amiable, so when he suddenly changed his attitude, she was startled and instinctively felt some fear. However, today's matter was caused by her mother and daughter. If Yang Kai really killed Madame Hua, she was afraid she would not be able to leave this place alive. Even the current situation was not easy to deal with. Lu Sanyang knew Madame Hua's temper very well. After suffering such a great humiliation today, it was probably impossible for her to just let it go. Some price would have to be paid to appease Madame Hua's anger. "You can't kill her, Brother Yang, let go of her first." Lu Sanyang kept persuading. She knew that Yang Kai was standing up for her and her daughter, and she was very grateful. But now that things had come to this, there was nothing she could do. No matter what, Madame Hua could not be killed, and the rest could only be discussed at length. Her show of weakness gave Madame Hua hope, and her arrogance suddenly became arrogant. She fiercely shouted, "Slut, I will report today's matter to Master. You and your daughter can just wait for death." Lu Sanyang's face paled and she begged, "Elder sister, this matter is Sanyang's fault. It has nothing to do with Qin. I ask elder sister to be magnanimous and not mention Qin in front of Master." Madame Hua laughed sinisterly. "Now you know to beg for mercy? Unfortunately, it's too late. You will all die today." Her pair of malicious eyes swept over Lu Sanyang and her daughter, admiring Lu Sanyang and her daughter's fear. Her heart was pleased, and she once again fixed her gaze on Yang Kai. With one look she was startled, because she did not see any fear on Yang Kai's face. Instead, he was calm, as if he had done something insignificant. This person, what was wrong with him? Yang Kai stared into Madame Hua's eyes, but he was speaking to Lu Sanyang in a calm tone. "Elder sister Lu, you also saw it. You kindly let her go, but she is not willing to stop. Why don't you let me kill her and end all troubles?" Lu Sanyang was silent, and her heart was anxious. She really did not know how to deal with the situation in front of her. Let Madame Hua go? It was equivalent to letting the tiger return to the mountain. But what if she did not let her go? Who could bear the anger of Fu Qi? No matter what choice she made, there would not be a good result. She was also very angry. The origin of today's matter was only because the red carp had 2 scales removed. It was not a big deal at all, but Madame Hua had come to denounce her like this. What's more, the mother and daughter had previously apologized, but Madame Hua still did not spare them, and insisted on an eye for an eye. "You want to kill me?" Madame Hua finally understood the meaning in Yang Kai's eyes. She was shocked, and her previous arrogance withered. She felt her entire body turn cold, and her blood seemed to freeze. She had not thought that on this spiritual island, there was actually someone who wanted to kill her. Yang Kai laughed coldly. "You think I am joking with you? If this was any other place, it would not matter if Madame Hua was killed or not. But this was Dragon Island. Since he had already had such a big conflict with Madame Hua, he could not let her leave. As to what the consequences would be after killing her, he could only take one step at a time." Feeling Yang Kai's killing intent enveloping her like a tide, Madame Hua finally panicked. Her face was snow white, and it was too late for regret. She had not known that things would develop like this. If she had known that this person would be so daring, she would have stopped long ago. But speaking of which, she had not expected that even Yuanwu would not be able to help her. Don't kill me, I beg you, don't kill me. I will not pursue the matter from before. I really will not pursue it. Let me live. Madame Hua's body trembled, and she begged for mercy. The aura of death came. Right now she only wanted to live. How could she care about her face? Because of her terror, tears flowed down her cheeks. Seeing Yang Kai not move, she hurriedly shouted at Lu Sanyang. Sanyang, you and I have been sisters for hundreds of years. Sister has treated you well in the past. Today sister was wrong. Master, please forgive me and spare sister. Lu Sanyang's heart softened, and she could not bear to hear this. LV Yuqin, on the other hand, was fuming with anger. Just a moment ago, this stinking woman was still scolding her own mother. She was so arrogant and insufferably arrogant. In the blink of an eye, she was actually so humble and submissive. She had never seen a scene of murder. Only now did she know that a person's pride could not withstand a single blow when their life was threatened. Sanyang. Madame Hua was still begging. Lu Sanyang was in a daze. She did not know if she should plead for mercy on behalf of Madame Hua. She had a gentle personality. Although she had been bullied by Madame Hua many times on this spiritual island, she would still feel uneasy if she saw Madame Hua being killed with her own eyes. In the end, her nature prevailed. She opened her mouth and was about to plead for mercy. Suddenly, she frowned and turned her head to look at the sea. In the next moment, her expression changed. She exclaimed, "Dragon race." A pure dragon's breath was approaching rapidly. It seemed to be a very high-level dragon race. At least, it was much stronger than Fu Qi. Lu Sanyang had lived on Dragon Island for so many years. She was naturally sensitive to this. She immediately looked at Yang Kai and said anxiously, "Brother Yang, stop. The dragon race was here." No matter which dragon race was coming, they could not let them see this scene. Otherwise, Yang Kai would definitely die. Yang Kai had obviously noticed it. However, unlike Lu Sanyang's panic, he revealed a strange expression. His gaze was fixed on the direction where the dragon race was coming from. Ha ha ha. Madame Hua suddenly laughed. Her previous subservience and humility had completely disappeared. A sinister look once again appeared on her face, as she looked at Kai Yang triumphantly and coldly said, "You want to kill me? Do you dare to do it in front of me? You dare to bully me like this? I will settle this score with you later. I will let you taste all the torture in the world." The dragon race was coming. She suddenly became fearless. She stared fiercely at Yang Kai, as if she wanted to imprint this hateful face in the depths of her mind. She would never forget it for the rest of her life. She then turned to look at Lu Sanyang and her daughter. Her cold eyes were like sharp swords that could pierce through people. Lu Sanyang's beautiful face turned pale. She whispered, "Brother Yang, let her go quickly. The dragon race is coming." Madame Hua was indeed just a plaything. However, she was still Fu Qi's woman. No matter which dragon race came, they would not leave this scene alone. The most likely possibility was to kill Yang Kai. Lu Sanyang was anxious like an ant on a hot pot. Chapter 3041. Are you deaf? Get out of the way. Madame Hua yelled. Shut up. Yang Kai slapped him across the face. A crisp sound was heard and Madame Hua was stunned. She felt pain on one side of her face, and it swelled up quickly. Although she was injured by Yang Kai previously, it was because she was no match for him. It was completely different from this slap on her face. How dare you? Slap, another slap. The other side of her face was swollen, and her mouth was filled with the smell of blood. Madame Hua immediately shut her mouth and stared at Yang Kai with a venomous gaze. She could tell that this young man who had been quiet all this while was a pain in the neck. The more arrogant she was, the more ruthless he would be. Madame Hua naturally didn't want to suffer any more losses. She could only wait for the dragon race to arrive and seek justice for her. A ray of red light flew over quickly and arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. Lu Sanyang's delicate body trembled and her face turned pale. All kinds of thoughts flashed through her mind as she tried to think of a way to explain the current situation to the dragon race. But no matter how she thought about it, she couldn't come up with any good ideas. What awaited her, her daughter, in Yang Kai's trio was the monstrous wrath of the dragon race. She reached out and pulled Lu Yuqin into her arms. She seemed to have accepted her fate and was prepared to spend her last moments with her daughter. The red light flew over everyone's head and headed to the other side of the spiritual island. Lu Sanyang was stunned. Madame Hua was also stunned. Her face turned pale and she shouted, "Master, save me!" She thought that the dragon who flew over did not see the scene of her being bullied, so she hurriedly shouted to attract his attention. Yang Kai snorted. The red light that flew over suddenly stopped, and a soft sound of surprise was heard. Then it revealed itself and looked over. His pupils shrank. "Master, save me!" Madame Hua cried out again. Her voice was sorrowful, and her appearance was desolate. The dragon race turned around and turned into a red light. In the blink of an eye, it landed not far in front of everyone. Its eyes were like leeches biting onto Yang Kai. As the dragon's might filled the air, Liu Sanyang's eyes were filled with fear and shock. She knew that there was nothing she could do now. She quietly looked at the dragon race and found that this dragon race looked to be about the same age as Yang Kai. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and a handsome face. His fiery red hair was particularly eye-catching. What scared Lu Sanyang the most was that the aura of the red-haired dragon race was not any weaker than Fu Qi's. In other words, this was definitely a Class 8 dragon race. It's over. It's really over this time. Lu Sanyang felt that the world was spinning and almost fainted. "Master Zhu Lai, save me!" Madame Hua, who was being stepped on by Yang Kai, shouted for the third time. It was only then that Zhu Lai's gaze turned towards her. He said indifferently, "You know me?" The dragon clan lived separately and didn't have much contact with each other. Therefore, even if these women had lived on the dragon island for hundreds of years, they might not be able to recognize all the dragon clan members. However, this woman actually recognized him. Obviously, her identity was somewhat different. Madame Hua hurriedly said, "I was fortunate enough to see Master once from afar. I dare not forget." Zhu Lai nodded and said thoughtfully, "You are Fu Qi's woman." Madame Hua nodded and said, "Yes." "What's going on?" Zhu Lai frowned and glanced at Yang Kai. He felt a headache coming on. He never thought that he would see Yang Kai here. This guy is too daring. He actually came to Dragon Island and coincidentally appeared on Fu Qi's island. Could it be that he heard some news? If that's the case, then it's bad. He had deeply experienced Yang Kai's lawlessness. He knew that if this matter was not handled properly, it would be troublesome for the dragon race. Madame Hua hurriedly said, "Master, it's like this." Her expression suddenly became delicate and pitiful. She explained while sobbing, "The pet that I raised for more than 10 years was injured by this group of people for no reason. I came here to ask for an explanation out of sadness. However, I didn't expect this person to be so unreasonable. Not only did he refuse to admit it, he even attacked me and my 2 sisters. We sisters have not fought with anyone for many years. How could we be his opponent?" The 3 sisters were all humiliated. I begged for mercy, but he didn't give up. Not only did he not want to leave it at that, he even wanted to kill me. Please uphold justice for us, my sister, and the others." While speaking, she burst into tears. It was as if she was a little girl who was bullied. She was as sad as she could be. Zhu Lai looked at Yang Kai with an ugly expression. He thought to himself, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he always causing trouble wherever he goes? He naturally wouldn't believe Madame Hua's words. He more or less understood Yang Kai. He naturally didn't believe that he was the kind of guy who would bully others. Madame Hua observed his expression and added oil to the fire. "Master, look at this person. He doesn't put you in his eyes at all. He even dared to be fierce in front of you. He didn't even let go of me. Before you came, he was even more, woo-woo." Lu Sanyang anxiously said, "Master, it's not like that." Madame Hua avoided the main point and dwelled on the trivial. She didn't mention her arrogant and despotic attitude at all. Instead, she pushed all the blame to Yang Kai. Lu Sanyang was naturally afraid that Zhu Lai would listen to one side of the story and then do something unfavorable to Yang Kai. At this time, only she could stand up and explain a thing or two for Yang Kai. Zhu Lai didn't even turn his head and said, "You don't have the right to speak." He seemed to be in a very bad mood. He didn't show any mercy to Lu Sanyang. Lu Sanyang immediately swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Her face was full of panic. Sighing in frustration, Zhu Lai looked at Yang Kai and said, "How can you step on people like this? Let her go first. You're a man after all." Yang Kai raised his chin slightly and looked at Zhu Lai arrogantly. His face was cold and indifferent. Zhu Lai suddenly became angry. He and Yang Kai didn't get along well. In addition, Zhu Qing's experience because of Yang Kai added fuel to the fire. He shouted in a low voice, "Let her go." Madame Hua saw this, and her courage suddenly increased. She gritted her teeth and shouted, "Dragon race in front of Master. You dare to be impudent. Do you really think you're someone? Take your smelly foot away." When she finished speaking, she suddenly groaned. It was obvious that Yang Kai used some strength in his foot. Madame Hua's arrogant expression immediately turned into a painful one. Large beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Her face was full of shock, and her beautiful eyes trembled. He dared to be fierce in front of a dragon race? Is this guy crazy? However, in addition to the pain, she was secretly happy. She knew that Yang Kai wouldn't be able to explain himself no matter what. She was Fuqi's woman after all. Master Zhu Lai would definitely seek justice for her after suffering such humiliation. She seemed to have already seen the scene of Yang Kai kneeling and begging for mercy, and then being brutally killed. A carefree smile immediately appeared on her face. "Are you talking to me?" Yang Kai picked his ear with an indifferent expression. Lu Sanyang and Madame Hua were both dumbfounded. Although they knew that Yang Kai wasn't timid, wasn't this too much? He actually dared to speak like this in front of a dragon race? Wasn't this seeking his own death? Lu Sanyang kept signaling Yang Kai with her eyes. She was afraid that he didn't know how terrifying and powerful the dragon race was. The dragon race was the head of the holy spirits, and the one in front of them was a rank 8 dragon race. He could take his life with a flick of his finger. She felt that Yang Kai was walking on a tightrope on a cliff. The slightest mistake would cause him to be smashed into pieces. However, what made her even more shocked was that Zhu Lai didn't immediately attack him. He only said angrily, "What do you want?" "Nothing much. I just want to seek justice." Yang Kai laughed coldly. Zhu Lai looked at Madame Hua and said, "She is Fuqi's woman, and Fuqi is also a rank 8 dragon vein. If you really kill this woman, Fuqi will definitely not let this go. Then let him come find me. I don't know if he has the guts." Zhu Lai was furious. "You are a piece of trash." Yang Kai's face turned cold. "You can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak whatever you want. Be careful, or I will beat you up." "Beat? Beat him up?" Lu Sanyang's eyes widened, and he looked dazed. Madame Hua screamed, "Master, don't waste your breath on him. This person doesn't care about the dragon race at all. Master, please kill this person." Zhu Lai's mouth twitched. He looked at Madame Hua, as if he was looking at an idiot. If other people dared to be so presumptuous in front of him, he would have already attacked. The pride of the dragon race was not something that could be trampled on. However, the person who said this was Yang Kai. What could he do? What could he do? He couldn't beat him. It wasn't like he hadn't fought with Yang Kai before. Unless he went to the Dragon Palace Hall and asked for protection, he didn't have the time now. Moreover, he was still leaning towards Yang Kai in the depths of his heart. Although he didn't like Yang Kai, Madame Hua was just an ant in his eyes. The reason why he persuaded Yang Kai to let her go was because he didn't want him to make a big deal out of this and make it impossible to resolve. How could he fight with Yang Kai for Madame Hua? Lu Sanyang's heart was also in her mouth. She looked worried. Yang Kai was actually so arrogant when facing a dragon race. This was something that she didn't dare to imagine. However, the dragon race didn't seem to have any signs of fighting. This made her feel even more confused. Since when was the dragon race so easy to talk to? Yang Kai had disrespected him multiple times, and even spoke rudely. How could he tolerate this? Zhu Lai's behavior completely overturned Lu Sanyang's understanding of the dragon race. In her impression, the dragon race was never a good-tempered race. Any slight dissatisfaction was enough for them to kill someone. Suddenly, Zhu Lai turned his head and looked in the other direction of the spiritual island. He said with a gloomy face, "Fuqi is here. Master is here." Madame Hua was overjoyed when she heard this. Her cultivation wasn't high enough, and she didn't have the dragon vein. Naturally, she couldn't sense the movement of the dragon breath. However, since Zhu Lai said so, it was obviously right. Zhu Lai said, "He probably sensed that I was here and was worried. That's why he specially came to check." Yang Kai asked curiously, "What grudges do you have with him?" Zhu Lai's eyes flashed. He said indifferently, "There isn't much grudges. However, you are going to have a grudge with him soon." After he finished speaking, he glanced at Madame Hua, who was being stepped on by Yang Kai. Madame Hua immediately became firm. Although she was unhappy that Zhu Lai didn't stand up for her at the first moment. Since Fu Qi was here, she had nothing to be afraid of. She just had to say a few words to Fu Qi Yang Kai, and Lu Sanyang wouldn't live to see the next day. Chapter 3042. While they were talking, a dragon's aura could be felt from the other side of the island. It was obvious that Zhu Lai was right, Fu Qi was really here. Sensing this familiar aura, Madame Hua became even more fearless, and her expression was filled with hatred. "Get lost!" Zhu Lai suddenly shouted, and raised his hand to slap Yang Kai. Yang Kai saw this and floated to the side. Silently, Madame Hua, who was in the middle of thinking about how to torture Yang Kai and Lu Sanyang, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. All the bones in her body were shattered and a heart-wrenching pain spread throughout her body. Her vitality was quickly draining away. With great difficulty, she turned her head and looked at Zhu Lai in disbelief. "Sir, you..." Her neck tilted, and she stopped breathing. Her eyes were wide open. Until she died, she did not understand why Zhu Lai would suddenly kill her. Lu Sanyang did not understand either. Seeing Zhu Lai kill Madame Hua so easily, she could not help but rub her eyes, thinking that she had seen wrongly. Accidental injury? It can't be right. How could an 8th-ranked dragon race cause such a misunderstanding? Just as she was feeling suspicious, Zhu Lai struck out with his palms from both sides again. 2 groans were heard, and the 2 women who came with Madame Hua bled from their orifices and died on the spot. Lu Sanyang's face turned pale. How was this accidental injury? This dragon race clearly killed Fu Qi's 3 women on purpose. What was going on? Logically speaking, shouldn't he have killed Yang Kai? But why did he not attack Yang Kai, but kill Madame Hua and the other 2 instead? Lu Sanyang felt that her brain was not enough, and she could not understand what was happening in front of her. Zhu Lai turned his head and stared at Lu Sanyang and her mother. The killing intent in his eyes was obvious, and he raised his hand as if he was about to attack again. Lu Sanyang's heart skipped a beat, and her face turned pale. A figure flashed in front of her, and Yang Kai blocked her and said softly, "You can't kill these 2. Zhu Lai said, "Be careful." Yang Kai shook his head. Zhu Lai said angrily, "Up to you. If the news spreads, it will be your trouble." After speaking, he turned to look at Yuanwu. Yuanwu had been unconscious ever since he was hit by Yang Kai. At this moment his body finally began to tremble. He was a second-order Emperor Realm Master, and he was also a descendant of the Dragon Clan. Yang Kai's attack wasn't that powerful, so how could it have knocked him out? He was just pretending to be unconscious. He saw everything that happened after that very clearly. All kinds of bizarre and unforeseen events made his heart jump. Especially the matter of Zhu Lai making a move to kill Madame Hua, and the other 2. It made him feel incomparably shocked. He faintly sensed that Zhu Lai seemed to be helping Yang Kai. If not, he would not have killed him before Fu Qi arrived. Since he was going to be silenced, then he was definitely going to be killed as well. So when he saw Zhu Lai looking at him, Yuanwu knew that the situation was not good. He hesitated between begging for mercy and running away, then ran straight towards Fu Qi shouting, "Master, save me!" Although he did not know why Zhu Lai wanted to silence him, he knew that Zhu Lai would not let him go. Even if he begged for mercy, it would be useless. At this time, if he wanted to live, he could only rely on Fu Qi. The chances were not good, but it was better than having no hope at all. Zhu Lai stared coldly at his back. He raised his hand, and a fire dragon rushed forward, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The flames filled the sky, and Yuanwu turned pale with fright. He turned his head to look, and was scared out of his wits. He cried out in alarm, "Spare me!" The fire dragon had already wrapped around him. This was a pure dragon flame that could not be dissolved by the power of the origin martial technique. He let out a miserable cry and flames wrapped around his body. He fell down and landed heavily on the ground, rolling and struggling. In a short 5 breaths, Yuanwu stopped moving. His flesh and blood had been completely incinerated, leaving behind a charcoal-like existence. Fuqi finally arrived. This was a man who looked to be in his 30s. He was muscular and had a dignified expression. Lightning wrapped around him and crackled. His gaze swept across Zhu Lai, and his gaze darkened. Clearly he did not like him. It seemed that there was some other grudge between them. He glanced at Yang Kai, but his gaze did not linger. A mere human was not worth his attention. However, Lu Sanyang's appearance caused him to frown. He naturally could not forget Lu Sanyang. Back then, it was he who had captured Lu Sanyang from the Northern Territory to Dragon Island. He had also personally banished her. After more than a decade, he still had this bit of memory. Lu Sanyang did not dare to look at him. She only protected Lu Yuqin behind her. Her delicate body trembled, and her face was as white as paper. Fortunately, Fuqi did not care too much about her. His gaze only paused for a moment before sweeping away. The next moment, Fuqi was enraged. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Zhu Lai, what did you do?" He saw the corpse of the woman he loved the most lying on the beach. Her beautiful eyes were wide open, and she died with a grievance. Her mouth was full of blood, and there was still a faint dragon essence lingering around her body. Obviously, she had died at the hands of the dragon race. At this moment, only Zhu Lai was a dragon race. Fuqi did not need to ask to know that it was Zhu Lai who killed her. This made him furious. This was his territory, and she was his exclusive property. Fuqi naturally could not tolerate her dying in Zhu Lai's hands for no reason. Fuqi was furious. Zhu Lai said indifferently, "You have eyes but can't see. I just helped you clean up." Fuqi's face turned green. What do you mean? He did not know what happened here. After all, this place was not too far from the other side of the island. However, he did not have the time to pay attention to the situation here. He only sensed Zhu Lai's aura, so he specially came to take a look. He did not expect to see such a scene. A mere ant dares to talk back to me. What do you mean? Zhu Lai snorted. She talked back to you? Fuqi was a little surprised and doubtful. Madame Hua had stayed on Dragon Island for quite some time. How could she talk back to a dragon race? Furthermore, he remembered that Madame Hua had seen Zhu Lai before. There were not many dragon race members, and high-level dragon race members were even rarer. Since she had seen him before, she would definitely remember. He did not think that Madame Hua would be so blind as to talk back to Zhu Lai. Was she not seeking her own death? What is she doing? Why? Can't bear to. Zhu Lai revealed a sarcastic smile. Fuqi stared at him deeply. After a while he said, "It's just a few playthings. It's fine to kill them. What's there to be reluctant about?" Indeed, there was nothing to be reluctant about. He did not care about Madame Hua's life or death. He only cared about his own face. Zhu Lai had come to his territory to kill his people. This was clearly not giving him any face. However, it was currently an eventful time, and he was not willing to be entangled with Zhu Lai to avoid any conflict. He picked up a way out and said, "Since she contradicted you, then her death is not to be regretted. At least you know what's good for you." Zhu Lai snorted. Fuqi said coldly, "Why are you here today?" Zhu Lai said, "I am here to see how the construction of your palace is going." "Just for this?" Fuqi frowned. This is a big matter. Zhu Lai's face darkened, and his tone became heavier. Fuqi nodded and said, That's right. It is indeed a big matter. Since you are here, let's go take a look together. I am not too sure about the palace. I only took a glance just now. It seems like the progress is not bad. These ants are quite capable. Zhu Lai's face was cold. He took a step and flew towards the palace, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Fuqi's face turned cold. Zhu Lai came over today and did not give him face. Even if he wanted to ease their relationship, Zhu Lai was still so arrogant. This made Fuqi very unhappy. However, Zhu Lai's strength and bloodline were not inferior to his. Fuqi could not flare up. Furthermore, he did not have to tolerate Zhu Lai for too long. He only needed 1 month. After 1 month, he would not have to care about Zhu Lai's attitude anymore. His figure flashed, and he also disappeared, leaving behind a ground full of corpses and Yang Kai and the others. From beginning to end, Fuqi did not look at Lu Sanyang, nor did he care about Lu Yuqin's existence. To him, this pair of mother and daughter were like air. They were not worth his attention. Lu Sanyang's expression was gloomy. It was not because of himself, but because of Lu Yuqin. Her daughter had half of Fuqi's blood, but Fuqi's heart was like stone. This made Lu Sanyang feel very uncomfortable. Fortunately, Lu Yuqin did not understand the situation. However, she was more concerned about another matter. At this time, she looked with lingering fear at Yang Kai and said softly, Brother Yang, little brother Yang, that master. Yang Kai said coolly, Let today's matter rot in your stomach. Lu Sanyang's expression turned solemn. She nodded and said, This concubine understands. Do not worry. We will not speak of today's matter to anyone else. Yang Kai nodded and turned to look towards the palace. If Zhu Lai had not appeared, today's matter would not have been good, especially after Fuqi had come. Zhu Lai obviously understood this, so he made the first move to gain the upper hand. Not only did he kill Madame Hua and the other two, even Yuan Wu, who was playing dead at the side, was not spared. If Yang Kai had not stopped him, Lu Sanyang and her daughter would have been killed to silence them. However, Yang Kai wasn't too worried. If things really reached an irreconcilable point, he could just fight with Fuqi. He didn't put an 8th order thunder dragon in his eyes. Because of this confidence, he wasn't afraid at all. This ending was not bad. The only thing Yang Kai did not understand now was why Fuqi seemed to be tolerating Zhu Lai. Logically speaking, they were all rank 8 dragon veins, and did not fear each other. But Fuqi's attitude today was thought-provoking. He could not understand, and was too lazy to think. Yang Kai only cared about Zhu Qing's whereabouts now. He had finally encountered Zhu Lai. He naturally could not miss this chance. He had to find out where Zhu Qing was from him. However, now that Zhu Lai was with Fuqi, it was not convenient to ask. Yang Kai could only wait silently. He believed that Zhu Lai knew why he had come to Dragon Island. Since he was covering his tracks and identity for him, he should have his own plans. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a red light rose from the palace and flew in a certain direction. Intentionally or not, that red light flew over Yang Kai's head and disappeared into the sea. On the island, Fuqi looked at Zhu Lai's back and sneered. He also turned and left. Chapter 3043. On the beach, Yang Kai stood for a long time. The sea breeze blew, and the smell of blood was much fainter. Lu Sanyang and her daughter dug a few holes nearby and buried the 4 dead people, letting them rest in peace. Her personality was like this. Even if she had been targeted and humiliated by Madame Hua, even if Madame Hua did not have good intentions towards her and her daughter, she did not abandon them after they died. She could not be at ease. After all, they had lived together for 200 to 300 years. Although there was no friendship, they were all familiar. How could she watch as their corpses were exposed in the wilderness? She even took care of Yuanwu, who had turned into a pile of charcoal, and took care of his funeral. She was busy all the way until the evening. It was not until the sun had set that she was done. She walked back with the pale LV Yuqin in her arms. LV Sanyang was at a loss for a moment, and did not know what to do next. Li Jiao had been taken away to cultivate the dragonblood flower. At this time, she could only rely on Yang Kai. But she was not very familiar with Yang Kai, and through today's interaction, she found that Yang Kai was an enormous mystery that she could not see through. He did not back down when facing Madame Hua, and he could speak viciously when facing a member of the dragon race. His actions seemed to be extremely dangerous, but in the end he was still safe. She stood 10 zhang away from Yang Kai, considering what to say. The events of the day made her see that there was a large gap between herself and Yang Kai. She could not treat him as casually as before. With a crashing sound, a puff of mist sprayed out from the sea, as if a sea beast was breathing in and out. Vaguely, a hill-like black shadow floated out from somewhere on the sea surface. Yang Kai said without turning his head, "Big Sister Lu, I am going out for a moment, and will be back in a moment. Do not run around." "Oh, okay." Lu Sanyang reflexively responded, her heart warm. She knew that Yang Kai took care of her like this because of Li Jiao. She was secretly happy that Li Jiao had made such a friend. Thinking of Li Jiao, Lu Sanyang's face dimmed. In this life, she was afraid that she would never be able to return to the past with elder brother Li. This feeling can become a memory, but at that time it was already lost. By the time he came back to his senses, Yang Kai had already flown out and landed somewhere in the sea. Another puff of water mist rose. The unknown sea beast turned around and swam towards the depths of the sea, but there was an uninvited guest on its back. 2 hours later, a small spiritual island appeared in front of them. The sea beast that was the size of a small mountain swam to the spiritual island and stopped moving. Yang Kai understood and took a step forward. He was already on the spirit island. The sea beast then turned around and disappeared into the sea. With a sweep of his divine sense, Yang Kai immediately locked onto a certain spot on the island. Using the space law, he instantly appeared on the summit of a small mountain. Zhu Lai was already waiting there. He should have seen Yang Kai's arrival, so he wasn't surprised. He only turned around to look at him and frowned. "Why are you on the Dragon Island?" Yang Kai was furious. He rushed up and grabbed Zhu Lai's collar. He stared at him fiercely. "What do you think, brother-in-law? Let go." Zhu Lai lowered his head to take a look and frowned. Although there weren't any outsiders, he couldn't accept being grabbed by the collar and talked to as a member of the dragon race. "I have tolerated you for a long time." Yang Kai didn't let go. His expression became even more ferocious. "Don't think that I can't guess. Zhu Qing didn't return to the Northern Territory and followed you back to the Dragon Island. It's all because of you, right? If it wasn't for you fanning the flames at the side, Qing would definitely be waiting for me at the High Heaven Palace." Zhu Lai said coldly, "The Dragon Island is the inheritance ground of the dragon race. If she doesn't return to the Dragon Island, where else can she go? You still dare to be stubborn. Do you really think that I don't dare to teach you a lesson? Don't go overboard. This isn't your High Heaven Palace. This is the Dragon Island. Why are you shouting so loudly? Since I'm here, of course I know that this is the Dragon Island. But it's only right for a brother-in-law to teach his brother-in-law a lesson. Who cares if you're on the Dragon Island? Even if Zhu Qing is here, I'll teach you a lesson if I want to. You can see which side she's on." Zhu Lai clenched his teeth and said, "Nonsense." Yang Kai sneered. "It's better than you taking advantage of people's unpreparedness to play tricks." Zhu Lai said angrily, What tricks did I play? Don't slander me. Yang Kai said. Then let's talk about Wei Qing. Came back to the Dragon Island without a word. Why didn't she even greet me? Do you dare to say that this has nothing to do with you? Who knows? Maybe she's tired of you. Don't think too highly of yourself. You're just a human. In the eyes of the dragon race, you're just an ant. Yang Kai was so angry that he laughed. Fine. Then I'll trample on the pride of the dragon race today. Let's see what you're made of. Unreasonable. You have no respect for your seniors. After arguing for a while, the two of them suddenly shut up. They stared at each other for a while. Neither of them was willing to back down. The atmosphere was tense. After a while, Yang Kai let go of Zhu Lai's collar and snorted. Zhu Lai's expression was unhappy. He tidied his clothes and patted the place where Yang Kai grabbed him with a look of disdain. Where's Zhu Qing? Yang Kai asked. He looked at the sea of stars. Zhu Lai didn't answer. Instead he asked, How did you come in? Yang Kai curled his lips and said, I'm proficient in the law of space. It's a piece of cake for me to enter a small world. Zhu Lai shook his head and said, If it was in the past, it might be possible. But now, a few elders have joined hands to lay down a restriction formation at the entrance of the Dragon Island. If you rashly touch it, it will automatically evolve into a void maze. It's impossible for you to barge in with your skills. Yang Kai nodded and said, There is a void maze, but it's not a problem for me. He was in a hurry to find out Zhu Qing's whereabouts. He didn't feel like telling Zhu Lai about his encounter in the void maze, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. You're really lucky, Zhu Lai sighed. After all, he had heard from the elders that the void labyrinth could even trap a great emperor for a moment. If they were to forcefully break it, it would definitely attract the attention of the elders of the Dragon Palace. The reason why they left such a method behind was to prevent people from sneaking into the Dragon Island. They didn't necessarily want to trap people inside, but they needed to use it as a warning at a critical moment. He didn't expect Yang Kai's luck to be so good. He actually found a way out of the void maze. You should go back. Zhu Lai sighed. You shouldn't have come. Yang Kai glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Since I'm here, how can I just go back so easily? I want to see your sister. Zhu Lai shook his head. You won't be able to see her. Yang Kai's expression turned cold. Will you die if you help me? Don't forget who brought you out of the reincarnation world. I don't expect you to repay my kindness, but you can at least help me a little, right? Zhu Lai still shook his head. Yang Kai gradually lost his patience. I really want to beat you up. Zhu Lai said. It's not that I don't want to help, but now, even if I help you, it's useless. What do you mean? Yang Kai frowned. Zhu Lai pondered for a long time, as if he was considering his words. After a while, he suddenly turned his head and stared at Yang Kai with a burning gaze. If it's for my sister, how far are you willing to go? This was the first time Yang Kai heard the word sister from him. Although he didn't directly call Zhu Qing, it was still a kind of expression of his true feelings. Yang Kai vaguely realized something and said coldly, Is Zhu Qing in some kind of danger? Answer my question first. Yang Kai shook his head and said, I don't need to tell you anything about the matter between your sister and I. You can't interfere, but if anyone dares to interfere, then they will be my enemy. Even the dragon race is no exception. Even if I die, Yang Kai said coldly, I've always been lucky. Zhu Lai nodded, and his cold gaze finally softened a little. Zhu Qing has good taste. I hope you remember what you said just now. Yang Kai said impatiently, Is Zhu Qing in danger? Zhu Lai said, She's not in danger, but she's been imprisoned. Yang Kai's expression turned cold and said coldly, Because of me? Zhu Lai nodded. That's right. You said that Zhu Qing didn't wait for you in the Northern Territory and went straight to Dragon Island because of my instigation. I won't deny that I had this intention at that time, and I also persuaded her a little, but in the end, she was the one who made the decision. It's just that I didn't expect that the reason why she wanted to go back to Dragon Island was to report to the elders about what happened between you and her. He turned his head and said word by word, She wants to give herself to you. Yang Kai was stunned, and then became furious. Just because of this, the dragon race imprisoned her? Zhu Lai shouted. Mating with a human is the biggest taboo of the dragon race. Yang Kai snorted. Bullshit, don't think that I don't know what the dragon race is like. I've seen a lot of dragon race playthings on the islands. Not only the male dragon race, but also the female dragon race. Why don't I see the elders of the dragon race imprisoning them? Zhu Lai said. You also said that those are playthings. How can it be compared to the matter between you and Zhu Qing? Zhu Qing wants to leave Dragon Island. How can the elders tolerate that? Leave Dragon Island? Yang Kai was completely stunned. He didn't expect that Zhu Qing would actually make such a choice. Even if Yang Kai didn't know much about the dragon race, he could imagine the furious expression of the elders of the dragon race when they heard this news. If Zhu Qing was just a normal dragon race, it would be fine. But Zhu Qing was already a level 9 giant dragon. Why would Dragon Island set such a precedent? Zhu Lai sighed. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let her come back, but now sigh. Yang Kai frowned. Zhu Qing didn't think of escaping. Zhu Lai looked at him like he was looking at an idiot. Her dragon vein is sealed. Her cultivation is suppressed. She can't even use a bit of power now. You can try to escape. Then where is she? Quickly bring me to her. Yang Kai was very anxious. It's useless even if you go. You can't break into the place where she is imprisoned. Even if you do, you will only die. How do you know if you haven't tried? Yang Kai snorted. I know that you are proficient in the law of space. But it's useless. The second elder is guarding her on his spiritual island. Nothing can escape his senses. Is the second elder very strong? Comparable to the great emperors? Yang Kai gasped. If that was the case, then he really didn't need to try. He might be discovered before he even got close. Chapter 3044. Immediately after, Yang Kai realized another problem. If the second elder of the dragon race was comparable to the great emperors, then what about the great elder? The great elder might only be stronger than the second elder. In other words, the entire Dragon Island was equivalent to having 2 great emperors level experts overseeing it. This was simply a bit sensational. In the past, Yang Kai only heard about how amazing the Dragon Island was from other people. He didn't have a direct understanding of it. But now he did. There were 2 great emperors. And this didn't even include the other dragon race. With this kind of background, who in the world could compare with it? What is the attitude of your great elder? Yang Kai frowned and asked. Zhu Qing was being guarded by the second elder of the dragon race on his own island. He definitely wouldn't let her leave. If Yang Kai wanted to bring Zhu Qing out, he could only think of contacting the great elder. Zhu Lai said. The great elder's name is Zhu Yan, and the second elder's name is Fu Shun. Do you understand? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. The second elder is from the Fu dragon race. Although our Zhu dragon race and the Fu dragon race come from the same source, and both belong to the dragon race, we actually don't get along well with each other. Yang Kai immediately got angry and said, since the great elder is from your Zhu dragon race, why didn't he protect Zhu Qing? Although he had never met that Zhu Yan, he couldn't help but have some resentment towards this great elder. He felt that this old man was too unscrupulous. He couldn't even protect his own people. What kind of great elder was he? He might as well retire early and find an island to retire. Zhu Lai said. Zhu Qing violated the rules of the clan. She insulted our dragon race's bloodline. The great elder couldn't protect her even if he wanted to. He looked at Yang Kai with anger. He felt that all of this was this guy's fault. If it wasn't for him, how would Zhu Qing be imprisoned? How would she fall into such a situation? After all, there were precedents in the past. What happened more than 10 years ago was very similar to what happened today. However, the problem wasn't the Zhu series dragon race, but the Fu series dragon race. He also fell in love with a human, and even gave birth to a child. When the news reached Dragon Island, second elder Fu Tianyi was furious. He personally captured that Fu Tianyi dragon race, and brought him back to Dragon Island. Ignoring the persuasion and pleas of other dragon race members, he threw him into the dragon tomb, and put him under house arrest. The dragon's tomb was a place that dragon race members would only enter when they were on the verge of death. It was a forbidden area for the dragon race. Entering that place was equivalent to being sentenced to death, never to leave again. That dragon race member who violated the clan's rules was one of the clansmen that second elder Fu Tianyi valued the most. It could be said that she was raised by the second elder single-handedly. Her existence was like his daughter. However, in front of the clan's rules, the so-called family love was not even worth mentioning. The second elder of Iron Blood still mercilessly banished her into the dragon's tomb, leaving her to fend for herself. Zhu Lai still remembered that even the great elder came forward to plead for leniency for that matter back then. He felt that a small punishment would suffice. But the impartial second elder was not moved at all and stubbornly insisted on doing things his own way. Although it was more than 10 years ago, Zhu Lai still remembered what happened back then clearly. With this example, it was already fortunate that Zhu Qing was not directly thrown into the dragon's tomb. How could he still hope for anything else? It was precisely because of the matter that happened more than 10 years ago that the great elder could not plead for Zhu Qing. The second elder even banished a clansman who was treated like his daughter into the dragon's tomb, let alone a Zhu series dragon race member. Insisting on protecting her would only produce the opposite result. Now it seemed that Zhu Qing was not banished into the dragon's tomb because she did not give birth to any children. Otherwise, her ending would definitely be the same as that Fu dragon race member. Although the dragon race members were incomparably unrestrained in their private lives, and many male dragon race members had children with humans and monsters, this kind of thing could not be mentioned in the same breath when it came to the female dragon race. This was really a big taboo in the dragon race. The main reason was that the ratio of the sexes in the dragon race was not balanced. The number of female dragon race members was originally very few, and any one of them was a treasure, the hope of continuing the bloodline of the dragon race. How could they have illicit relations with humans? Yang Kai's expression darkened as he thought for a while, and then he said restlessly, "In your opinion, can I suppress your second elder's bloodline?" Zhu Lai curled his lips and said, "Don't even think about it. I can suppress the 8th rank, but I haven't tried the 9th rank yet. Second elder's bloodline is only at the 10th rank at most. It's not that far off." Zhu Lai shook his head and said, "I know what you are thinking, but I advise you to give up on this idea as soon as possible. Second elder's cultivation is exceedingly high. With your current ability, there is no way you can suppress his bloodline. Not to mention the second elder on the Dragon Island. If I am prepared, you can't even suppress me." "What do you mean?" Yang Kai frowned. Zhu Lai said, "The power of the ancestors of the dragon race is gathered in the Dragon Palace. As long as you seek the protection of the secret technique of the Dragon Palace, you can offset the bloodline suppression to a certain extent. You should have tried it last time." Yang Kai was stunned, and suddenly remembered the scene when he first met Zhu Lai. At that time, he didn't seem to be able to suppress Zhu Lai in terms of bloodline. In the end, he had a breakthrough in the essence of the dragon transformation art. He was only able to completely suppress Zhu Lai after removing a dragon scale from his body. On the dragon scale that was removed, there was a trace of the secret technique of the dragon race. Only at this moment did Yang Kai understand that it should be the protection of the Dragon Palace that Zhu Lai sought. No wonder he couldn't suppress him at the beginning. It turned out that there was another reason. If you want to suppress a powerhouse like the second elder, you will have to fuse all the origin of the dragon race in your body. Even then, there is only a glimmer of hope. Don't forget, in addition to being a dragon race member, the second elder himself is also an existence comparable to the great emperors. Fuse all of them, that's impossible. Yang Kai shook his head like a rattledrum. He had been cultivating the dragon transformation art for a long time. Although he had fused a lot of the origin of the golden divine dragon, it was only a little. If he wanted to fuse all of them, it would be impossible without 100 years of hard work. Then don't think about the second elder. Is the great elder really unable to help? Yang Kai's eyes flickered with radiance. In a place like the Dragon Island, only the great elder could contend against the second elder. If he could be persuaded to help, then they might have a chance to rescue Zhu Qing. We can't count on the great elder. He is the leader of the dragon race. He won't break the rules of the race. Yang Kai immediately lost his temper. This won't do, that won't do. Are we just going to watch helplessly like this? While speaking, he suddenly thought of something and said excitedly, "That's right. I have the Dragon Island command plate. I will use the Dragon Island command plate to exchange for your sister." As he was speaking, he took out the Dragon Island command plate. Zhu Lai's eyes lit up, but they quickly dimmed down. He sighed and said, "If it was anything else, the Dragon Island would satisfy you, but I'm afraid this won't work." Yang Kai said angrily, "Even the dragon race doesn't keep their word? Didn't they say that the dragon race would grant one wish to the holder of the Dragon Island command plate? My wish is to bring your sister with me. Although it's true, the prerequisite is that you can't break the rules of the dragon race and hinder the benefits of the dragon race. If you want to bring Zhu Qing with you, you will be breaking the rules of the dragon race." Yang Kai was silent for a moment before he cursed. Ever since he ascended to the Emperor realm, it had been a long time since he felt so powerless. This feeling made him very unhappy and irritated. It was as if all his paths were blocked, and he couldn't display his abilities. Zhu Lai's eyes flickered and he suddenly said, "1 month later, there might be an opportunity." Yang Kai was energized as he lifted his head to look at him. Zhu Lai looked at him and explained, "1 month later, Zhu Qing will leave the spiritual island of the second elder. Only then will you be able to bring her with you." "How do you know what will happen 1 month later?" Yang Kai frowned as he felt that Zhu Lai was implying something. Zhu Lai looked at him with a complicated gaze and asked instead of answering, "Do you know why the dragon race is suddenly building a palace on Fu Qi's spiritual island?" Yang Kai thought for a moment and said, "Fu Qi's wedding?" He had heard Madame Hua mention this during the day, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Although the dragon race's wedding was a big matter, it had nothing to do with him. He just wanted to bring Zhu Qing away. To be precise, it's the wedding of Fu Qi and Zhu Qing. The air suddenly froze as the surrounding temperature plummeted, and a burst of cold air wantonly. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed into slits as his emperor qi surged uncontrollably. He said word by word, "Say that again? I don't think I heard you clearly." Zhu Lai sighed and said, "As a compromise for not banishing her to the dragon tomb, she needs to be married to Fu Qi and continue the bloodline of the dragon race." Hong. Boundless rage gushed out from all the pores on his body. Yang Kai clenched his fist so tightly that his bones cracked. It had been a long time since he had tasted this kind of rage. His anger was like a tidal wave that drowned him and shook his mind. Right now he just wanted to kill someone, return to that spirit island, find Fu Qi, and tear him into 10,000 pieces. Otherwise, he would never be able to vent the anger in his heart. "Bastard, how dare you steal my woman?" Yang Kai didn't have a good impression of him when he saw him during the day. Now his impression of him was even worse. He directly regarded him as a mortal enemy. He never thought that the dragon race that harmed Lu Sanyang would dare to steal his woman. Although Zhu Qing resisted, this was the decision of the elders. It didn't matter whether she agreed or not. If not, why would her dragon vein be suppressed and her cultivation sealed? Hearing this, Yang Kai's mood became even worse. He felt sorry for Zhu Qing. He could almost imagine how powerless Zhu Qing was at that time. He blamed himself. If his woman was bullied, it was because he didn't protect her well. Thinking about Fu Qi, he was furious. What the hell? Why didn't he take a piss and look at himself? He gritted his teeth. His expression was terrifying, as if he wanted to eat someone. Zhu Lai looked at him and said, 1 month later, it will be the wedding. At that time, she will go to Fu Qi's island. If you want to save her, you only have one chance. Other than that, you won't be able to see her. Yang Kai said fiercely. In other words, I have to endure on that island for a month? You can also go to the second elder's residence now and see how fast you can die. Yang Kai stared at him fiercely. He took a deep breath and exhaled deeply. The breath that came out of his nostrils was boiling hot, as if it was burning. After a while, he calmed down and nodded slightly. I understand. You can still leave now. Zhu Lai looked at him. With your ability, you can definitely leave if you can enter. But if you insist on staying, 1 month later, you will most likely die. Yang Kai's anger came and went quickly. His rationality was not destroyed. He knew that Zhu was right. He clenched his fist and said, "I look forward to that day." Chapter 30:45. Zhu left. Only Yang Kai remained on the island. Yang Kai's face was gloomy, and his expression twisted ferociously. The news he had just received from Zhu caused his emotions to surge, and he was unable to calm down for a long time. 1 month later, Zhu Qing's wedding? Yang Kai suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed fiercely, as his emperor pressure erupted, and his overflowing emperor qi turned into a shockwave that spread out in all directions. The trees swayed and the surrounding sand and stones were blown away. The fairy-like island was instantly turned into a mess. As his laughter faded, Yang Kai turned his head and glanced in a certain direction. In the sea at the edge of the island, there was a purple coral reef that was crystal clear and extremely beautiful. Tapping his foot, Yang Kai flew up and disappeared into the night sky in an instant. The island returned to peace. After an unknown period of time, the purple coral reef suddenly twisted and transformed into a graceful figure in a purple robe, graceful and charming. She stared in the direction that Kai Yang had left and blinked her peach blossom eyes. Suddenly, her lips curled into a smile. "It seems like I've discovered a huge secret. Zhu, oh Zhu, let's see how you'll escape from my palm now. You dare to look down on me? I'll teach you a lesson this time." She laughed for a while, seemingly extremely happy, but after a moment of contemplation, she turned around and prepared to leave this place. But at this moment, her figure suddenly froze as a cold aura enveloped her from head to toe, seemingly freezing her blood. Behind her, Yang Kai, who had been away for a long time, had returned at some point and stood there silently, staring at her indifferently with a pair of eyes that had turned red from anger, as if he was looking at a dead person. "You!" Fu Ling was shocked and instinctively retreated, trying to put some distance between her and Yang Kai. She had heard every single word of the conversation between Zhu and Kai Yang. Naturally, she knew what kind of ability this seemingly ordinary human possessed. Therefore, her first reaction was to run away. She didn't even think about fighting with Kai Yang. It wasn't that she was a coward. There was no such thing as cowardice in the dragon race. They were the leaders of all spirits, and the head of the holy spirits. The only things that could make them afraid were the strong ones of their own race. The reason why she retreated was because she knew that she was no match for Yang Kai. She only had a rank 6 dragon vein. Even Zhu and Zhu Qing, who had rank 8 dragon veins, had suffered great losses in the hands of Yang Kai. How could she be a match for him? It had to be said that this was a very wise choice. As long as she could distance herself from Yang Kai and escape into the sea, she might be able to escape with her ever-changing ability. Fu Ling's speed had already reached its limit, his entire body transforming into a purple dragon, piercing through the void. Yang Kai's body did not move. He still looked at her coldly, but like a maggot in a tarsal bone, he stayed within 3 steps of her, unable to get rid of her. Fu Ling's face turned pale. She activated her dragon yuan to call for help. Although it might not be effective, it might be able to make this human in front of her hesitate. "Look at me," Yang Kai bellowed. His voice was like spring thunder. His voice turned into a line that rushed into Fu Ling's ears. Fu Ling instinctively raised her head to look, only to see that Yang Kai had already transformed into a 4-zhonglong dragon. His huge figure was like a huge mountain pressing down on her heart, causing her to be unable to breathe. That sensational pressure caused her blood to freeze. She could not even unleash half of her strength. What frightened Fu Ling the most was that Yang Kai's left eye was shining with a golden light, causing her mind to become unsteady and her soul to waver. Following that, a huge hand that was like a palm leaf fan slapped towards her. Fu Ling was shocked. Her heart was filled with boundless fear. She wanted to open her mouth to beg for mercy, but no matter what, she could not make a sound. It was as if she was dragged into a nightmare. In the next moment, a surging suction force came. The vast sea suddenly disappeared. The nearby islands also disappeared without a trace. The ground suddenly appeared under her feet, and the surrounding scenery also changed bizarrely. Cough, cough, cough. Fu Ling half knelt on the ground as she gasped for breath. Her face was pale like a sheet of paper, and in a short instant, the clothes on her body had already been drenched in sweat. Her thin clothes stuck tightly to her exquisite and graceful figure, drawing out a breathtaking scene. A pair of big legs suddenly appeared in front of her. Fu Ling raised her head with difficulty and looked at the figure that was blocking her line of sight. Her delicate body couldn't help but shiver. That nightmarish experience just now made her saliva drip down from the corner of her mouth. It was a different kind of temptation. Although she knew that Yang Kai was strong, she had never expected that with her own strength, she would be completely powerless against him. What's going on with this guy? Why is he even more terrifying than what Zhu Lai reported? When Zhu Lai and his sister returned to the Dragon Island a while ago, they went to meet a few elders. After that, Zhu Qing was imprisoned, and the news that she was going to marry Fu Qi suddenly spread. The whole Dragon Island was shaken, and everyone was astonished. After all, this matter was very strange. Everyone wanted to know the whole story. Fu Ling was also the same. Women were naturally more gossipy, and the dragon race was no exception. She spent a lot of effort, and finally found some news. It was said that during this trip, Zhu Qing actually had an affair with a human. That was still fine, but Zhu Qing actually wanted to give herself to him. She only returned to the Dragon Island to ask the elders to agree to this matter. That human's name was Yang Kai. It was said that he obtained the ancestral dragon's origin and had an extraordinary encounter. However, a human was still a human. How could the elders agree to Zhu Qing's request? It wasn't like this had never happened before. More than 10 years ago, that human was banished to the dragon tomb, and he could forget about coming out for the rest of his life. His ending was countless times more tragic than Zhu Qing's. Zhu Qing was under house arrest on the second elder's spiritual island, and she was going to marry Fu Qi in a month's time. As for how to deal with that human, Fu Ling didn't know, but she could roughly guess that he would have a hard time in the future. As for the dragon race, they would definitely deal with him after Fu Qi and Zhu Qing were married. How could the ancestral dragon's origin be left outside? And how could it be controlled by a human? Fu Ling knew some things about Yang Kai, but she didn't expect him to be so daring as to sneak into the Dragon Island. If she didn't suddenly discover Zhu Lai and follow him here, she wouldn't have found out about this shocking news. She was faintly regretting now that her whereabouts were exposed, and she wasn't Yang Kai's match. She didn't know what was waiting for her. She struggled in her heart, and suddenly, she bounced up and leaped a few hundred feet away. When she turned back to take a look, she was delighted. Yang Kai was actually still standing at the same spot, looking at her with a cold face. He didn't have any intention to chase after her. Fu Ling didn't hesitate anymore. She let out a dragon's roar, and a purple aura soared into the sky, transforming into the shape of a dragon. It didn't dissipate for a long time. "You are dead meat. My clansmen will be here soon. If you kneel down obediently and beg for mercy, I might spare your life." Fu Ling stopped and looked at Yang Kai from a few hundred feet away, chuckling. That secret technique just now was a signal for help. She believed that the entire Dragon Island's dragon race was rushing here, so she had nothing to fear. She didn't need to be afraid of Yang Kai anymore. Her courage was boosted, and her previous uneasiness disappeared completely. Yang Kai didn't say anything, and only looked at Fu Ling with a mocking expression. He didn't feel nervous at all. Fu Ling clicked her tongue in wonder and sized him up. She asked in astonishment, "Aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid?" Yang Kai grinned. Fu Ling nodded her head. "You are quite gutsy." She flung her hair, and after the fear in her heart disappeared, her entire person became radiant. That pair of watery eyes seemed to be able to speak, and was very seductive. "But if you are only gutsy, why would Zhu Qing take a fancy to you? What is it about you that she likes?" She actually didn't hesitate to leave the Dragon Island just to be with you. She was happy to chat with Yang Kai and stall for time. As long as her clansmen arrived, Yang Kai wouldn't be able to do anything even if he had the ability. She suddenly pursed her lips and laughed. "Could it be? Your ability in that area is very good? Zhu Qing wants to taste it, that's why. Hee hee hee. She is really a woman who has never seen the world." Yang Kai wasn't surprised that she said such shameless words. He had seen Fu Ling's debauched life a few days ago. Who knows? Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders and still stood on the same spot without moving. Fu Ling licked her red lips. Her lips were very thick, and they were also sparkling and translucent. They were as alluring as rubies. Her breathing was slightly hurried as she said, I heard that the reason why Zhu Qing was able to advance to the 9th level dragon vein was all because of you? This wasn't a secret. At least it wasn't a secret on the Dragon Island. When Zhu Qing returned a few days ago, her advancement to the 9th level dragon vein shook the entire Dragon Island. It was extremely difficult to advance the dragon vein, even if one continuously consumed the dragon blood flower. A dragon race might not be able to advance one level in 10,000 years. Especially for Zhu Qing, who had the 8th level dragon vein, the advancement was even more difficult. But Zhu Qing did it. Although she didn't explain the reason, how could the experienced and knowledgeable elders not guess the whole story? The human she mated with had obtained the ancestral dragon's source. Under the union, Zhu Qing must have obtained great benefits. That was why her bloodline was able to advance. Fu Ling's dragon vein was only at the 6th level. If she could get some nourishment, advancing to the 7th level wouldn't be a problem. She might even be able to reach the 8th level. Chapter 3046. Fu Ling grabbed a strand of her hair, twirling it with her fingers as she casually said, This great ant is a purple dragon and naturally knows how to transform into a rock. What's so strange about it? Infinite transformation. Yang Kai clicked his tongue in amazement. This divine technique is quite good. If he had not inadvertently circulated his emperor qi and noticed a trace of abnormality, he would have been fooled by her. Although he had noticed the abnormality at that time, Yang Kai was not too sure, so he had pretended to leave while secretly hiding to observe. Unexpectedly, he had really caught a peeping Tom, and it was this Fu Ling. Because of Fu Qi's matter, Yang Kai did not have a good impression of the entire Fu clan dragon race, especially Fu Ling's debauchery. Today, Fu Ling had discovered his secret conversation with Zhu Lai, so if he did not deal with it properly, it would definitely be a big problem. Fu Ling finally noticed that something was wrong, and her beautiful brow furrowed as she vigilantly looked around. If you are waiting for reinforcements, I will have to disappoint you. Fu Ling's expression changed as she shouted, This is not an illusion array. Is this a small world? Previously, when the scenery had suddenly changed from Sea Spirit Island to this inexplicable place, she had thought that it was because of some kind of illusion array arranged by Yang Kai. But now she realized that this was not an illusion array at all. This was a small world. Understanding this, Fu Ling's calmness instantly collapsed as she finally understood why none of her clansmen had come after so long. A small world was an independent space, so although she had used a secret technique to send out a distress signal, how could she send it out? Without her clansmen to help, it meant that she had to face Yang Kai alone. Damn it! Fu Ling was both shocked and angry, turning around and running away, her figure once again transforming into a streak of purple light, no longer as calm as before. She did not know what this small world was, nor did she know why Yang Kai was able to bring her here. But she knew that she was doomed, so she had no choice but to run. Not long after flying out, Fu Ling cried out in alarm, because she suddenly felt an unimaginable pressure coming from all around her, instantly suppressing her on the spot. Her entire body seemed to have hit an invisible wall, and all of a sudden, she was fixed there. No matter how she struggled, she couldn't get rid of it. A force came from the front, pushing her body back uncontrollably. The distance between her and Yang Kai was getting closer and closer. She cried out involuntarily. After living for so many years, this was the first time she had encountered such a bizarre thing. World force. This was the power of this small world. Fu Ling's beautiful eyes were filled with horror and astonishment. The fact that Yang Kai could control this small world made her feel despair. She knew that there was no way she could contend against him. In the short span of 3 breaths, all of her efforts were in vain, and she was once again in front of Yang Kai. Looking up at the dragon's body, Fu Ling trembled with fear and shouted, "You can't kill me." Yang Kai remained unmoved. His huge palm slapped down with a cold expression. The anger that he had suppressed for the entire night was about to be vented on Fu Ling. Fu Ling cried out again. I am Zhu Lai's woman. The dragon's palm was only 3 inches away from Fu Ling's head. The strong wind caused Fu Ling's clothes to flutter. After surviving the calamity, Fu Ling fell to the ground with a pale face. Yang Kai lowered his head and looked at her. He gently lifted a finger and pointed his sharp dragon claw at Fu Ling's forehead. A drop of blood immediately seeped out. Say it again. I am not lying to you. I am really Zhu Lai's woman. Fu Ling's delicate body trembled. She had never experienced the feeling of death. This feeling made her collapse. The arrogance of the dragon race had long been thrown away. She raised her face and wore a fawning smile. However, because of fear, her smile was even uglier than crying. You sure are confident. Yang Kai chuckled. However, because he was a half-dragon, his laughter sounded a little frightening. Fu Ling quickly said, It's true. This is the decision of the elders. Of course it is also my request. Yang Kai frowned. He felt that she was not lying. What do you mean? Zhu Qing has been bestowed a marriage to Fu Qi as compensation. One of the people from the Fu dragon race will be married to the Zhu dragon race. I will be the one who marries over. Zhu Lai will be the one to complete the marriage with me. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. We are a family. Fu Ling's eyes were watery. She looked at Yang Kai pitifully, as if she was looking at the person she admired the most. She said sweetly, Brother-in-law, what I said is true. She did not say that against her will. Her expression was very natural, as if she had really become a family with Yang Kai. Yang Kai had a strange expression. Zhu Lai, he agreed. He found it funny. Zhu Lai's taste was too heavy. He did not believe that Zhu Lai did not know what kind of woman Fu Ling was. He dared to pick up such a broken shoe? Was he not afraid that he would be cheated on in the future? Fu Ling forced a smile. He has no choice but to agree. In the eyes of the elders, the continuous bloodline of the dragon race is the most important thing. He is so pitiful. Yang Kai sighed. He sympathized with Zhu Lai's situation. His brother-in-law was really in trouble. If he was in the same situation, he would be angry to death. Brother-in-law. Fu Ling called out more and more smoothly. I really did not have the intention to leak the secret. I just wanted to use this matter to threaten Zhu Lai and make him obedient. As for Fu Qi, I am too lazy to care about him. Furthermore, Zhu Qing has a rank 9 dragon vein. Only someone like brother-in-law is worthy of her. Who is Fu Qi? He actually dares to snatch your woman. He simply does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She had probably never flattered before. Her words were very insincere and hypocritical. Seeing that Yang Kai did not say anything, Fu Ling was very nervous. But in order to survive, she could only muster up her courage. She reached out and grabbed Yang Kai's ankle. She shook it like a spoiled child. Brother-in-law, just believe me. I will not lie to you. What does it matter if I believe you or not? Yang Kai lowered his head and looked at her with an indifferent expression. Fu Ling's face turned pale again. She pursed her red lips and said, Do you really want to kill me? Not waiting for Kai Yang to reply, she continued. Brother-in-law, we are all family. If you really want to kill me, then I have nothing to say. Who told me to hear things I shouldn't have heard, to see things I shouldn't have seen? But you have to think carefully. If I die, it will definitely alarm the entire Dragon Island. When the Great Elder and Second Elder investigate, they will definitely find you. At that time, you can forget about saving Zhu Qing. Hearing this, Yang Kai frowned. Fu Ling had been talking for a long time, and her words hit the nail on the head. In fact, he was also hesitating whether to kill Fu Ling to silence her. In this small sealed world, if he really wanted to kill Fu Ling, it would not take much effort. Here, he was the master, not to mention the suppression of Fu Ling's bloodline. But what about after killing her? The dragon race was rare. The death of any dragon race member would shake the entire Dragon Island. If Fu Ling died, it would be difficult for him to hide his whereabouts. Yang Kai looked hesitant. Seeing this, Fu Ling was overjoyed. She knew that Yang Kai really had some scruples. She had made the right move. Her face became softer and softer as she whispered, As long as brother-in-law doesn't kill me, Ling Er will listen to you. She knelt there, Her clothes were wide open, and her snow-white cleavage was exposed to the air. It was very eye-catching. These words had a deep meaning. Yang Kai's eyes were immediately attracted by the snow-white semicircular cleavage. Fu Ling smiled slightly and pulled down her clothes, revealing more of her body. She was secretly proud in her heart. He was just a trivial human, while she was a member of the dragon race. As long as she showed a little of her charm, would he not be captivated? What's more, this human controlled the ancestral dragon source. Zhu Qing, with her 8th Order dragon bloodline, could obtain great benefits from him and advance to the 9th Order. She was only at the 6th Order dragon bloodline. If she could be the same as Zhu Qing, wouldn't she obtain even greater benefits? Deep in her heart, she did not reject Yang Kai's invasive gaze. Instead, she was extremely happy. It could even be said that she longed for it. She became restless, her body became hot and dry, and she clamped her legs together. After a series of crackling sounds, Yang Kai suddenly returned to his human form. He stretched out his hand and grabbed her slender neck. Brother-in-law. Fu Ling's cheeks flushed red, making her appear delicate and alluring. She pretended to be shy. Open your sea of consciousness, Yang Kai shouted in a low voice. Fu Ling's bashfulness instantly disappeared from her face. She looked at Yang Kai in shock. She suddenly understood what he was planning to do. Her face suddenly turned pale. I won't say the same thing twice. Yang Kai's voice was cold. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish now. Fu Ling struggled and hesitated for a moment before finally accepting her fate and smiling miserably. Brother-in-law, you must be gentle, this is my first time. The moment Fu Ling opened her knowledge sea, she noticed an extremely pure spiritual energy pouring in. There was a wave of discomfort in his mind. This was the first time someone had invaded his sea of consciousness. Furthermore, it was him who gave up resisting. Fu Ling instantly had the thought of dying. If he had known this would happen, he would not have gotten involved in this mess today. In his heart, he had already scolded Zhu Lai. After transforming into her soul avatar, Fu Ling immediately saw Yang Kai. Yang Kai had also transformed into his soul avatar, and was standing above Fu Ling's knowledge sea, his expression solemn, his hands constantly forming seals. Fu Ling knew what he was doing, but was powerless to stop him, so she could only stand aside and watch, her heart filled with grievances. A moment later, a seal bloomed from Yang Kai's hand and blasted into Fu Ling's knowledge sea. In an instant, her knowledge sea tumbled and Fu Ling groaned, her soul avatar fluctuating violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. After a while, she gradually recovered and looked up, but Yang Kai had already disappeared. Apparently, he had withdrawn from her knowledge sea at some point. Checking the soul brand, Fu Ling smiled bitterly. She wondered if she could get a chance to dissolve this brand, but when she saw the complexity and sturdiness of this soul brand, Fu Ling dispelled this idea. Returning her soul to her body, Fu Ling looked at Yang Kai uneasily and called out softly, Brother-in-law, what are your orders? After being implanted with the soul brand, her life was now in Yang Kai's hands, so she had no choice but to submit. She no longer acted presumptuously, and instead became a little cautious. Behave yourself, I will leave in a month, and you will be free. Understood. Fu Ling lowered her head. Chapter 3047. The sky was turning bright in the east. When the sky turned bright, Yang Kai returned to Fu Chi's spiritual island. The night was full of ups and downs. He found out about what happened to Zhu Qing a month later, captured Fu Ling, planted the divine soul brand in her mind, and controlled her life and death. Yang Kai suppressed the anger in his heart. He knew that it was useless to be angry now. The right thing to do now was to think of a way to save Zhu Qing a month later. It was a dragon race wedding. By then, all the members of the dragon race would be present. The elders would definitely not be absent. The Great Elder and Second Elder were existences comparable to the Great Emperors. With his current abilities, would he be able to save Zhu Qing right under their noses? The possibility of success was close to zero, unless he could find a way to get the Great Elder to stand on his side and let him deal with the Second Elder. Only then would he have a chance of success. This was not nonsense, but it was very practical. From what Zhulai said, the great elder was more gentle while the second elder was more incorruptible. The great elder probably did not approve of this marriage. However, he could not object to it because of the clan rules. Thus, he maintained a tacit attitude. What should he think of to get the great elder to help him? The Dragon Island order might be a good choice, but it was not a safe choice. Yang Kai only hoped that Fu Ling could help him find out some useful information. Otherwise, he might really die a month later. Subduing Fu Ling was a good choice. At the very least, he had placed a pawn in the Fu Dragon race. If this pawn was useless, then so be it. However, if it was useful, it might bring about unexpected results. He pondered all the way back. When he returned to the spiritual island, Lu Sanyang and her daughter were still waiting on the beach. Seeing that Yang Kai had landed, Lu Sanyang quickly welcomed him. Brother Yang, you are back?" Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She did not know what Yang Kai was doing, but she guessed that something big must have happened. Seeing Yang Kai's gloomy expression, he didn't dare to say anything more. Lu Yuqin was still young. She had witnessed the events of the previous day with her own eyes, especially the tragic deaths of several people in front of her eyes. She seemed to have yet to recover from the shock. Her small face was pale as she tightly snuggled into her mother's embrace. Yang Kai stood in place and thought for a while. Only then did he sort out his chaotic emotions. What he needed to do now was to ensure that he could see Zhu Qing in a month. If he couldn't even see Zhu Qing's face, how could he take her away? He took a deep breath and had a plan. He looked sideways at Lu Sanyang and tried to say in a calm tone, "Where is Yuanwu's space ring?" "It's here." Lu Sanyang hurriedly handed over a few rings. Madame Hua and the others' rings are also here. Yesterday, when she took Lu Yuqin to bury Yuanwu and the others, she had collected the space rings. She didn't want to secretly hide them. Now that Yang Kai asked, she naturally took them out. There were a total of 5 space rings. 4 of them were owned by Yuanwu and the others. The other one was given to him by Fu Qi a few days ago. It stored rare materials used to build the palace. Yang Kai scanned it with his divine sense and took the space ring that belonged to Dragon Island. He returned the remaining 4 to Lu Sanyang. Lu Sanyang hesitantly took them. "Keep them," Yang Kai said and flew towards the island. The place where the temporary imperial residence was located was bustling with noise and excitement. In just a few days, there was already the shape of a palace. While only the foundation had been built, for such a large-scale creation, this kind of progress was very good. About 200 people were busy here. No one dared to slack off. After all, this was a task given to them by the dragon race. There was also a rank 8 lightning dragon living on the island, who could guarantee that they would not be noticed if they slacked off. So everyone was very attentive and worked day and night. Only when they were tired would they take some lingdan to recover. Such a rare guest. "Why has Brother Yang come?" An enthusiastic voice called out as the monkey-like Wu Qin greeted Yang Kai with a smile. When the surrounding cultivators heard this, they all raised their heads and glanced at Yang Kai with displeased looks on their faces. The cultivator that came here had all been given different missions by Yuanwu. No one was idle. Even Lu Sanyang and her daughter had gone into the sea to search for luminous pearls. Only Yang Kai seemed to have nothing to do and was very leisurely. This kind of treatment naturally caused dissatisfaction in people's hearts. But Yang Kai's methods were very strange. He had easily crushed Yuanwu before. Even if people were dissatisfied, they were not willing to easily start a conflict with him. So after glancing at him, those people continued to work. "Brother Wu," Yang Kai nodded. Wu Qin frowned and walked next to Yang Kai. He said, "Right, Brother Yang, have you seen Master Yuan? I heard that Master Yuan went to your place. Why is he not back?" "Yuanwu is dead." Wu Qin stilled and looked blankly at Yang Kai. The surrounding cultivators also turned to look at Yang Kai again, each of their faces filled with disbelief. Wu Qin's mouth twitched. He said hoarsely, "Dead? How did he die?" "He offended the dragon race and was killed by the dragon race." Hiss! A series of gasps could be heard, and everyone's expression changed. Previously, Fu Qi had brought everyone here and handed everything to Yuanwu. Everyone had thought that he was valued by the dragon race. But in just a few days he had died. And he had died at the hands of the dragon race. The dragon race was unpredictable and treated human lives like grass. This caused people's hearts to beat fast. They secretly warned themselves not to make any mistakes on Dragon Island. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. Wuxia was silent for a moment. He seemed to grieve for the death of a rabbit. He asked, "Then what do we do now? Without Master Yuan to manage the palace here, I'll leave it to you." Yang Kai tossed the space ring over as he spoke. "Me?" Wuxia was stunned. He caught the ring in a hurry. He smiled bitterly. "Brother Yang, don't joke around. How can I? Someone has to manage. Brother Wu, you don't have to decline. I am only responsible for conveying the dragon race's message. If anyone dares to disobey, just tell me. The dragon race will take care of him." As Yang Kai spoke, his gaze swept across the cultivator who was looking over. His cold expression made everyone silent. The information revealed in these words was not small. They had no choice but to re-evaluate Yang Kai. Wuxia seemed to understand something. He asked in a low voice, "Brother Yang, are you in contact with the dragon race? You can rest assured. Within the time limit, this palace must be built. Otherwise everyone will die." Yang Kai did not answer him directly. Instead he said ambiguously. In fact, he was not wrong. He was in contact with Zhu Lai. Now that he had subdued Fu Ling, if anyone was not convinced, he could call Fu Ling over to suppress them. Wuqian's expression turned serious. He nodded and said, "I understand, Brother Yang. There will be no mistakes here." "That would be for the best." Yang Kai reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He then turned and left. If he wanted to see Zhu Qing, he had to ensure that the palace was completed on time. Otherwise, if there was no palace on the day of the wedding, how could there be a wedding? When the time came, he might not even be able to see Zhu Qing. He originally wanted to personally oversee the construction of the palace, but this matter was too sullen. How could there be a man in the world who would worry about his woman's marriage with someone else? If he really had to do it himself, he might lose his temper one day and directly destroy the palace. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and pushed this matter away when he saw Wuqian. Out of sight, out of mind. He could take advantage of this period of time to cultivate and strive to make a breakthrough in his strength and realm. When the time came, he would have a better chance of taking Zhu Qing away. With a plan in mind, Yang Kai returned to the beach again. After informing Lu Sanyang, he went straight to the sea. An hour later, he reached the depths of the sea. The surface of the sea stretched as far as the eye could see. There was no other scenery in sight. Yang Kai released his divine sense to investigate. After confirming that there was no one around, he dove into the sea. After reaching a depth of a few thousand meters, Yang Kai suddenly summoned the sealed world bead. His figure flickered, and he hid inside the sealed world bead, while the sealed world bead fell straight to the bottom of the sea. Next to the medicine garden in the sealed world bead, Yang Kai sat cross-legged, calming his mind and breathing in the world energy. After spending a full 4 hours, he finally calmed down and threw away all the distracting thoughts in his heart. Summoning the purple origin furnace, he took out various spirit flowers and rare grasses and placed them in order. Finally, he carefully took out 3 spirit flowers that were as red as blood. Dragon blood flower. In this world, only Dragon Island could produce such a rare flower. It looked similar to Li Jiao's dragon blood flower, but in terms of quality and size, it was incomparable. This was a dragon blood flower cultivated on Dragon Island, so it was naturally not comparable to Li Jiao's half-baked dragon blood flower. In comparison, Li Jiao's dragon blood flower was like a weed on the edge of a field. There were not many dragon blood flowers, only 3. These were obtained from Fu Ling. It was not an exaggeration to say that he stole them. When Fu Ling handed over these 3 dragon blood flowers, her face was full of bitterness and heartache, but under the effect of her soul brand, she had no way to resist Yang Kai's request. Although a dragon race member could be allocated a fixed share of dragon blood flowers every year, the number was not too many. For a 6th-order dragon vein like Fu Ling, being able to get 20 dragon blood flowers per year was already the limit. And this also depended on the maturity of the dragon blood flowers. If one was unlucky, it was possible to only get 10. Dragon race members did not like to cultivate because they had a long lifespan. As they grew older, their bloodline would slowly become purer and improve, and finally stop after reaching a certain peak. Chapter 3048. The dragon blood flower was also divided into different grades: lower grade, middle grade, and upper grade. The highest grade was the best grade dragon blood flower. Even on the Dragon Island, the best grade dragon blood flower was something that could only be chanced upon, but not sought after. This was not something that could be born just by the accumulation of medicinal age. There was still a trace of natural factors involved. Of the 3 dragon blood flowers in Fu Ling's hands, 2 were low grade, and 1 was middle grade. According to this classification, Li Jiao's dragon blood flower could only be regarded as an inferior grade, not even comparable to the low-grade ones. At that time, that dragon blood flower was refined into a dragon blood pill by Jiying. Yang Kai took it and combined it with the dragon transformation secret art to cultivate a half-dragon body, benefiting him a lot. Now that he had 3 dragon blood flowers of higher grades, Yang Kai naturally could not waste them. He wanted to refine it into a dragon blood pill and stimulate his own golden holy dragon's origin power, so that it could fuse better with him. To deal with the dragon race, the best way was to start with bloodline suppression. Otherwise, Yang Kai had no chance of winning at all. Yang Kai had never refined a dragon blood pill before, but after many exchanges with Jiying, he was very familiar with the process of refining a dragon blood pill. He even knew the pill recipe like the back of his hand. His attainments in the alchemy Tao were very deep, so there should not be any big problems. With everything ready, Yang Kai changed his hand seals, and a raging flame ignited inside the purple origin furnace. Herbs spirit array engraving, fire control. As the medicinal liquids of the herbs were condensed, a faint fragrance gradually drifted out of the purple origin furnace, making people feel refreshed. With the improvement of his strength, Yang Kai became more and more proficient in the alchemy Tao. Although he had not done it for a long time, his movements were smooth and without the slightest awkwardness. Back on Water Moon Star, the grand alchemic Tao Tone had taught him the art of alchemy, so as long as he was in the right state, alchemy was almost an instinctive reaction. When Yang Kai threw a low-grade dragon blood flower into the pill furnace, the pill fragrance became even stronger. Yang Kai's movements were meticulous and his expression was solemn, as if he was not performing alchemy, but the most solemn thing in the world. Half a day later, Yang Kai displayed the 9 heavens profound pill method. This pill collection technique was also imparted by the great alchemy Tao Tone. It was a unified technique, but it was in accordance with the laws of the heavenly Tao. It was extremely mysterious. Boundless phantoms flashed past, and a series of crisp jingling sounds came from the alchemy furnace. It was extremely pleasing to the ears. The fire in the furnace was extinguished. Yang Kai's expression was as calm as an ancient well. As he lifted the lid, he stretched out his hand and patted it. 2 blood-red spirit pills flew out from the furnace. Yang Kai was already prepared for this, and directly put them into a jade bottle. After taking a closer look, Yang Kai showed a trace of dissatisfaction. Although the dragon blood pill had been successfully refined, its quality didn't seem to be very good. It was only slightly better than the one Jiying had refined. The dragon blood flower that he used today was much better than the one that Jiying used, but the quality of the dragon blood flower did not meet his expectations. Thinking about it this way, his refining this time was not as good as Jiying's. The number of completed pills was also not ideal. There were only 2 pills, not to mention pill veins and pill clouds. They were nowhere to be seen. If this matter happened to any other pill emperor, they would have long since forgotten their place. Although pill emperors could refine emperor-grade spirit pills, they could not guarantee a 100% success rate, not to mention refining something like the dragon blood pill. Among all emperor-grade spirit pills, the dragon blood pill was one of the most difficult to refine. The main ingredient was the dragon blood flower. Other than Jiying, No other pill emperor had the fortune to refine it before. This was Yang Kai's first time refining the dragon blood flower, and he had already refined 2 pills. Such a result was extraordinary for any pill emperor. Naturally, it was something to be happy about. However, Yang Kai couldn't bring himself to be happy. These dragon blood pills were related to the major event that would happen 1 month later. Of course, he wanted the higher the quality, and the more the quantity the better. Tidying up his mood, Yang Kai did not rush to open the furnace again. Instead, he took out some spirit pills and consumed them to recover his strength. 2 hours later, Yang Kai opened the furnace again. This time, he also used a low-grade dragon blood flower. Half a day later, a series of clinking sounds rang out. Yang Kai raised his brow and slapped the furnace. Although he didn't check, Yang Kai could tell from the sound that there were more than 2 pills this time. Sure enough, 4 blood-red spirit pills flew out from the furnace and were once again stored in a jade bottle. The second batch of dragon blood pills was indeed better. Whether it was the quality or the color, they were much better than the first batch. The medicinal efficacy should also be stronger. Alchemy was indeed a job that practice made perfect. This time, he didn't rest and directly started refining the 3rd batch of dragon blood pills. Another half a day later, the 3rd batch of dragon blood pills was successfully refined. The quantity remained the same, still 4 spirit pills. However, the quality had increased by a level, and it was an extremely obvious improvement. Of course, Yang Kai was familiar with the process, but more importantly, it was the contribution of the only mid-grade dragon blood flower. In alchemy, the skill of a pill master was important, but the materials were also the key to the final pill's quality. For the same pill master, the better the materials, the higher the grade of the spirit pills refined. 3 batches of spirit pills, a total of 10 pills. Such a result could only be described as outstanding. If it were any other pill master, they wouldn't dare guarantee they could achieve such a result, even Jiang. Perhaps only the great emperors of wondrous pills could guarantee a 100% success rate. Once everything was ready, Yang Kai began to cultivate without stopping. Because this was the small sealed world, his territory, he didn't need to worry about anything. No matter how much of a commotion he caused, the outside world wouldn't be able to notice. Dragon transformation. Recovering a little, Yang Kai inhaled a second dragon blood pill from the jade bottle into his mouth. Inside the small sealed world, Yang Kai did not stop for a moment. Constantly taking the dragon blood pills, he refined and cultivating the dragon transformation secret art with the assistance of these emperor pills. Although the dragon blood pill had the effect of improving one's dragon race bloodline, its biggest use was to stimulate the dragon race source, making it purer and more powerful. Yang Kai's situation was different from that of the general dragon race. All dragon race bloodlines and source were gradually matured, but Yang Kai was different. His golden divine dragon source was fixed and had no room for growth, making it easier to stimulate and integrate. Today's Yang Kai was like sitting on a mountain of treasures, but he could not use all of its power. He could only plunder the wealth of this mountain bit by bit to gradually fill his pockets. 2 days later, the last dragon blood pill was completely refined. Yang Kai opened his eyes abruptly, his pupils flashing wildly as an unparalleled dragon pressure spread out from him. Yang Kai let out a long roar similar to a dragon's roar, shaking the world. Yang Kai's mountain-like body slowly stood up and breathed out a mouthful of hot air. The whole world seemed to be shaking. Sweeping his body with his divine sense, Yang Kai smiled. The 10 dragon blood pills really had some effect. Yang Kai's dragon body was now 15 meters long. This kind of improvement could be described as extremely significant. One had to know that when he obtained the help of Zhu Qing's primordial yin, he had only grown from 15 meters to 40 meters. These 10 dragon blood pills had allowed him to grow another 10 meters. This result made Yang Kai extremely satisfied. Chapter 3049. Time flew by, and 3 days later, Yang Kai opened his eyes from meditation with a gloomy expression on his face. He had already consumed all the dragon blood pills, which allowed his 4-meter-long dragon body to grow to 5 meters. But after 3 days of continuous cultivation, there was no progress at all. He also knew that his cultivation had reached a bottleneck, and without some special opportunity, it was impossible to break through to the second-order emperor realm. But Zhu Qing's wedding was imminent, and he was eager to improve his strength, so he couldn't help but try. He had wasted 3 days in vain. He couldn't improve his cultivation, and he had consumed all the dragon blood pills. Was there really nothing he could do now? The golden divine dragon source in his body was a huge treasure, and if he had more dragon blood pills, he would be able to fully develop the potential of the dragon race source. He didn't need too many. As long as he could grow to 10 meters, Yang Kai was confident that he could leave Dragon Island with Zhu Qing. 10 meters, that was easier said than done. He had cultivated the dragon transformation art so far, and with the help of Zhu Qing's primordial yin and more than a dozen dragon blood pills, he had only grown to 5 meters, which was only half of the way to his goal of 10 meters. If 10 dragon blood pills were used to increase his height by 1 meter, he would need 50 dragon blood pills to reach 5 meters, and at least a dozen dragon blood flowers. This was not even taking into account the increased difficulty in the later stages of growth. If he were to calculate, he would need at least 20 dragon blood flowers. Where would he get 20 dragon blood flowers? Thinking about it, Yang Kai suddenly froze, slapped his head, and secretly scolded himself for being an idiot. Dragon blood flowers were indeed rare. But where was this place? This was Dragon Island, the only place in the world that produced dragon blood flowers. As long as he could find the cultivation site of dragon blood flowers on Dragon Island, would he need to worry about not getting 20? Sure enough, it was dark under the light. He was really stupid. If he had thought of this earlier, he wouldn't have wasted 3 days. The test was imminent, and every day was extremely precious. The 3 days he wasted were very likely to be the key. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and directly left the sealed world bead. The sealed world bead had already sunk to the bottom of the sea. As soon as Yang Kai appeared, he felt a huge pressure pressing down on him from all directions, as if it wanted to crush him into powder. Circulating his emperor qi, Yang Kai barely managed to form a protective barrier around his body to offset the terrifying sea pressure, put away the sealed world bead, and rushed straight to the surface. Half a day later, on the island where Zhu Lai had met up with Fu Ling, a purple light quickly flew over and landed on the island. A graceful figure appeared. It was Fu Ling. She carefully looked around, but didn't find anything suspicious. She couldn't help but call out softly, brother-in-law, sneakily, as if he was doing something shameful. I need the dragon blood flower. Yang Kai's voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Fu Ling was startled and turned around, only to find that Yang Kai had already appeared. Hearing this, Fu Ling's face turned bitter. No, I gave you all my dragon blood flowers last time. If you don't believe me, I can let you search. Today, when she received Yang Kai's summons, she was a little uneasy. Who knew that Yang Kai would make such an excessive request as soon as they met? Yang Kai had robbed her of her remaining 3 dragon blood flowers, which made her very resentful. In the blink of an eye, she rushed out of the sea again, bringing along a sparkling and translucent splash. The dragon's roar shook the sky. It was incomparably mournful. Her dragon body suddenly turned into human form, then back into dragon form. The unimaginable pain and torture made Fu Ling unable to maintain her human form and dragon form. She kept switching between the two forms. In her sea of consciousness, her soul seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand. It was ruthlessly squeezing, as if it was going to crush her soul. Fu Ling couldn't even beg for mercy. She felt as if she was going through the most severe torture in the world. She kept sinking in pain and despair. Every moment was a torture that made her feel like she was better off dead. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Yang Kai stopped his seal. He lowered his head and looked down with a cold expression. Fu Ling crawled beside his feet. Her delicate body was drenched in sweat. Her clothes were sticking to her body, outlining her beautiful body. Her body was convulsing. Her eyes were lifeless. Saliva kept flowing out from the corner of her mouth. Her beautiful hair was scattered like a chicken's nest. The torture on her soul, Even a dragon race like her couldn't bear it. She felt that she was walking on the edge of death countless times. This experience would become an eternal nightmare. This is a lesson for you. You won't be so lucky next time. I know. Fu Ling gasped for breath. Her plump chest was heaving up and down violently. She was lying there like a pile of mud. After being tortured by Yang Kai like this, she also recognized the reality. Although what she did might offend the interests of the entire Dragon Island, if the elders were to find out, the only ending waiting for her would be banishment to the dragon graveyard. But if she didn't do it, then the only thing waiting for her would be death. This cheap brother-in-law of hers didn't have any gentlemanly demeanor. He also didn't treat her as a family. He didn't show any mercy when torturing her. After comparing, she naturally knew what choice she should make. The recovery ability of the dragon race was really something. Even though Fu Ling looked like she was half dead, she recovered in the time it took to brew a cup of tea. She tidied up her clothes, wiped off the saliva, and looked at Yang Kai timidly. Are we really going? After experiencing what happened just now, she had a kind of instinctive fear toward Yang Kai. This kind of fear was something she never had before. Although she also knew that her life was in the hands of Yang Kai, it was only a vague concept after all. But now she knew. Yang Kai could really make her die in an instant. He could even make her experience something even more painful than death. Yang Kai turned his head and stared at her with an unfriendly expression, looking like a fiend. Fu Ling didn't waste any more time. She immediately flew out. I will lead the way, brother-in-law, you follow me. If we meet other dragon race members on the way, you should hide as soon as possible. Yang Kai didn't say a word, nor did he do anything. His body swayed, and he flew side by side with Fu Ling. Fu Ling seemed to be a little resentful about what just happened. She didn't say a word along the way. She didn't have the excitement and passion from a few days ago, occasionally glancing at Yang Kai with eyes full of fear. Where are the dragon blood flowers planted on Dragon Island? Yang Kai asked. Although Fu Ling was full of resentment, she had to answer. It's also on an island. The island specializes in growing dragon blood flowers. It's one of the most important places for our dragon race. How many dragon race members are guarding it? 1. Fu Ling said shyly. What rank bloodline? Rank 6. Rank 6 dragon bloodline. But just like Fu Ling, Yang Kai wasn't afraid of anything. He pondered for a moment and said, when we reach there, you attract the attention of the guard. I will take care of him. We can't give him time to react. Fu Ling said awkwardly, brother-in-law, there's no need to go through so much trouble. What do you mean? Fu Ling pointed at herself and said, I am that guard. Yang Kai looked at her in shock. The corner of his eyes twitched. Then he couldn't help but laugh. This was really what they meant by traveling far and wide in search of something, only to find it by chance. It seemed that all his previous plans were completely useless. To be able to encounter such a coincidental thing. It seemed that Dragon Island deserved to be plundered by him. Seeing him laugh, Fu Ling also laughed along, looking very awkward. You dragon race members are too arrogant. Yang Kai chuckled. This unexpected gain made his mood very good. He couldn't be bothered to argue with Fu Ling. There's only one dragon race member guarding such an important place? And from the looks of it, you don't seem to be very attentive. Chapter 30-50. Fu Ling shook her head and said, it's not that we, the dragon race, are arrogant. It's just that on this dragon island, no one dares to trespass into the breeding grounds of the dragonblood flower. Furthermore, there are only a limited number of dragonblood flowers there. Only the elders have the right to harvest them. Normal dragon race members can't even touch them. That's why there's no need to guard that place. She paused for a moment and said, furthermore, the dragon race members are very few in number. It's impossible to place a few guards there. We usually take turns to guard it. It's my turn this year. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to pick up those bastards a few days ago. Yang Kai nodded after hearing that. A while ago, he came to Dragon Island with Li Jiao and the rest of the dragon descendants. It was indeed Fu Ling who brought them away. It seemed like this was also one of Fu Ling's duties as a guard. Furthermore, No matter which part of the Dragon Island, the defense was extremely lax. This was something that Yang Kai had experienced a few days ago. He went to so many spiritual islands, and only exposed his whereabouts at Fu Ling's place. It could be seen how lax the defense of the Dragon Island was. In his opinion, this was the embodiment of the dragon race's arrogance. Because of their arrogance, they didn't need to guard against anything. The dragon race also had the capital to be arrogant. They would never have thought that there would be a human who was so daring to have designs on the dragon blood flower. During the journey, Yang Kai suddenly thought of a question. When does the dragon race usually harvest the dragon blood flower? Fu Ling said, "It's still early. At least 2 months." "That's good." Yang Kai was relieved. 2 months. By that time, he might not be on the Dragon Island anymore. It wouldn't matter even if the matter was exposed. He definitely had to interfere with Zhu Qing's wedding. This was enough to completely offend the dragon race. With this psychological preparation, Yang Kai didn't have any psychological burden to plunder the Dragon Island's dragon blood flower. Since he was destined to offend them, he might as well go all the way. He might as well get some dragon blood flower to strengthen his capital. The spiritual island that nurtured the dragon blood flower wasn't too big, but the spiritual energy was extremely dense. It seemed like there was a good vein there. Moreover, the entire island was bright red, as if it was made of fresh blood. When one approached the island, one could clearly smell the scent of blood. Yang Kai and Fu Ling landed on the island together and scanned the island with their divine senses. They immediately detected the presence of living beings on the island. These creatures gave off a very weak feeling. Their life force was like a candle flame in a storm that could be extinguished at any moment. There were quite a few of them, at least 200 of them. Dragon descendant. These creatures were all dragon descendants that were brought to Dragon Island. The dragon race was using their blood to create the dragon blood flower. Yang Kai frowned as his divine sense locked onto a familiar aura. His figure flickered and disappeared. Li Jiao had been very miserable these past few days. After parting ways with Yang Kai, he was brought to this island. Then, under the arrangement of Fu Ling, he sat in a formation. When the formation activated, Li Jiao immediately felt his blood essence being sucked out, turning into a blood mist that filled the island. The entire island was shrouded in a layer of red mist. This mist was the blood essence of the dragon descendants. He wanted to resist, but he couldn't walk out of the formation. Under the continuous operation of the formation, his essence blood was constantly being sucked out. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. Although he had been mentally prepared, he still turned pale with fright. The formation wasn't sucking his blood essence fast, but if this continued, his cultivation would definitely fall. He might not even be able to keep his third-order low-rank dragon vein. This was simply unacceptable to him. He finally understood why the cultivation of the dragon descendants was generally lower in Half-Dragon City. They were used as nourishment for the dragon blood flower. So how could they raise their cultivation too high? The ruthlessness of the dragon race terrified him. In order to ensure that his cultivation didn't fall, Li Jiao could only sit cross-legged in the formation and circulate his secret art. Even so, he couldn't make ends meet. He felt that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. At most in 10 days, his cultivation would fall to the second-order emperor realm. If that was really the case, it would be harder for him to cultivate back to his original level in the future. He continuously swallowed pills, and even consumed a lot of high-rank source crystals. One could imagine how much resentment he had for the dragon race. He had always yearned for Dragon Island. He wanted to see the place where his bloodline was born. This had almost become his greatest wish in his life. Now his wish had come true, but the result was so cruel. If he could turn back time, he would rather be free and unrestrained in the Fire Dragon Palace than get involved in this muddy water with Yang Kai. He didn't know if he would be able to leave Dragon Island alive. Every time he thought of this, Li Jiao would feel extremely sorrowful. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and furrowed his brow. When he opened his eyes, a smiling face appeared in front of him. "Brother Yang." Li Jiao was overjoyed. He stood up excitedly and said, "You came to save me?" His belly full of complaints towards Yang Kai disappeared in an instant, and were replaced by incomparable gratitude and kindness. Li Jiao suddenly felt that he was really cheap. He had fallen into this state because of Yang Kai, so it was only right that he came to save him. Why was he so grateful? Brother Li, you're doing well. Yang Kai chuckled. Li Jiao's face turned bitter. Brother Yang, don't joke around. Let's hurry up and save me. I don't want to stay in this damned place any longer. With a rustling sound, a graceful figure appeared in front of Li Jiao's eyes. Turning his head, Li Jiao's face changed drastically as he shouted, "Not good, the dragon race is here. Brother Yang, be careful." Fu Ling walked over with his hands behind his back. Hearing this, he curled his lips. "Let him out." Yang Kai turned his head and ordered. Li Jiao could not help but be stunned. He looked at Fu Ling in astonishment, then looked at Yang Kai. Clearly, he did not understand what was going on. It seemed that this dragon race did not have any hostility towards Yang Kai. Moreover, wasn't Yang Kai's tone too casual? What was going on? Something that Li Jiao could not imagine happened. After hearing Yang Kai's words, the woman from the dragon race actually formed a seal with her hands and slapped in his direction. In the next instant, the formation that had been operating suddenly stopped. Li Jiao felt his body lighten, and he no longer had to endure the pain of his blood essence being extracted. Brother-in-law, you know each other? Fu Ling glanced at Li Jiao curiously. Yang Kai nodded. Brother-in-law. Li Jiao's eyes widened. He moved closer to Yang Kai and asked in a low voice, "This master is Miss Qing's younger sister?" It's a long story. Yang Kai did not explain further, and Li Jiao naturally did not ask further. He only said with a grateful expression, "Brother Yang coming to save me. This Li will remember it in my heart. Saving you was just a matter of convenience. I came here for another matter. What is it? This Li can also help." Li Jiao took the initiative to ask. "Steal the dragon blood flower." Li Jiao was stunned for a moment, then sweat fell like rain. "So timid?" Fu Ling curled her lips and looked at Li Jiao with disdain. "Are you really from the dragon race?" Li Jiao wiped his sweat and looked at Fu Ling. It was too strange. Even if she was Miss Qing's younger sister, she would not help Yang Kai steal the dragon blood flower, right? If this kind of thing was known by the dragon race, what good would it be? Therefore, Li Jiao did not even dare to think about it. However, Yang Kai looked as if it was a matter of course. What was even stranger was this dragon girl's attitude. Fu Ling sneered and said, "If I'm not from the dragon race, then are you? Although I don't want to steal the dragon blood flower, since it is brother-in-law's order, then I am naturally duty-bound." "Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and do it," Yang Kai said as he walked to the side. There was a bright red spirit flower there. It was the dragon blood flower, and judging from its size and color, it was clearly a mid-ranked dragon blood flower. He carefully reached out and picked it, putting it into his space ring. He was excited. A single dragon blood flower was at least 4 dragon blood pills. This would be of great help to his cultivation of the dragon transformation art. Seeing this, Fu Ling smiled and said, "Brother-in-law, can I just watch?" Although she had made a big mistake, and would definitely not have a good ending, she was still a little afraid of stealing the dragon blood flower. Embezzlement and being forced into helplessness were two different things. Even if the elders were to pursue the matter, she would still have an excuse. Yang Kai did not speak, so Fu Ling took it as his silence. She followed closely beside him, and did not take action. 1 stalk, 2 stalks, 3 stalks, the dragon blood flower grew very scattered. Yang Kai went all the way and picked any flowers he saw. In less than half an hour, he had already picked 10 stalks. Most of them were low-ranked dragon blood flowers, and there were only 2 mid-ranked dragon blood flowers. It seemed that even on the Dragon Island, there were not many mid-ranked dragon blood flowers. Li Jiao did not dare to take action, and just followed behind Yang Kai. Seeing him happily picking the dragon blood flowers, his eyes could not help but turn red. He had spent hundreds of years to cultivate a single dragon blood flower, and regarded it as a treasure. In the end, Yang Kai benefited from it. Just thinking about it made his heart ache. 1 stalk was already so valuable, and this was the island where the dragon blood flowers were cultivated. It was hard for him not to be jealous. His heart was restless. Picking one stalk was enough to upgrade his bloodline. But no matter what, he was not as bold as Yang Kai. Fu Ling was also the same. Although these dragon blood flowers were considered the wealth of the entire dragon race, she also had a share. Yang Kai plundering like this was equivalent to snatching away the benefits that belonged to her. Fortunately, she realized that Yang Kai also had his own principles. He did not touch those dragon blood flowers that were not ripe, and all the dragon blood flowers that were already ripe. There were more than tens of thousands of dragon blood flowers on the entire island. However, about 90% of them were not ripe. Therefore, even if Yang Kai really swept away all the ripe dragon blood flowers, it would not destroy the foundation of the dragon blood flowers. After another 10 to 20 years, there would be more dragon blood flowers that would mature. 10 stalks, 20 stalks, 30 stalks, in a short 2 hours. Yang Kai had already plucked over 100 dragon blood flowers. His original target was 20 stalks, but this target had already been tossed far away. Plundering 20 stalks was stealing. Plundering 100 stalks was also stealing. Since he had already done it, there was naturally no need to hold back. Over 100 dragon blood flowers. 80% of them were low-grade, and there were only a dozen or so mid-grade. What made Yang Kai excited was that he had actually plucked a few high-grade dragon blood flowers. With a single glance, one could tell that the high-grade dragon blood flowers were very different from the mid-grade and low-grade dragon blood flowers. The medicinal power contained within was incomparably shocking. If it was refined into a dragon blood pill, it would definitely be very different from before. Chapter 3051. Half a day later, there were more than 1,000 dragon blood flowers in Yang Kai's space ring. He had almost walked through the entire spiritual island. Li Jiao also picked a few under Fu Ling's watchful eyes. His hands were trembling nonstop as he was excited or scared. He felt extremely excited. Suddenly, Yang Kai looked in a certain direction and was attracted by the 2 dragon blood flowers. Those 2 dragon blood flowers were obviously slightly different from the ones he'd gathered earlier. Both flowers were crystalline and translucent, and their blood-red color was round and pure. Moreover, the dense red qi that suffused them actually showed signs of transforming into WRMs that were extremely lifelike. Supreme-grade dragon blood flower? Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. Although he had never seen a supreme-grade dragon blood flower before, he could recognize the 2 flowers the moment he saw them. Brother-in-law, these 2 flowers. Fu Ling was anxious. Supreme-grade dragon blood flower was something that one could only come across by chance on the Dragon Island. Only the elders were qualified to consume them. The 2 supreme-grade dragon blood flowers were already taken. They would be given to the Great Elder and Second Elder after 2 months. Now that they were targeted by Yang Kai, how could they keep them? Even though Fu Ling knew that she couldn't keep them, she still tried to persuade him. Get lost. Yang Kai pushed her to the side and walked to the 2 dragon blood flowers with burning eyes. Reaching out to pick them, the red dragon shadow on the flowers let out a faint roar. Fu Ling sighed as she knew that she was done for. After the incident here was exposed, the only ending that awaited her was to be banished to the dragon's graveyard. Another 2 hours later, all the mature dragon blood flowers on the spiritual island were swept clean by Yang Kai. Stay on the spiritual island. I will call for you whenever there is an opportunity. Try not to let the incident here be exposed. Yang Kai instructed Fu Ling when he walked out of the spiritual island. Got it. Fu Ling dealt with it listlessly. She wanted to slap Yang Kai to death. After creating such a huge mess, he still expected her to clean up after him. He was simply too unreasonable. Yang Kai nodded and flew away with Li Jiao. Although Li Jiao was a little weak, because Yang Kai had rescued him in time, his foundation was not damaged. He only needed to rest for a while to recover, and there was no risk of his cultivation base and realm falling. Along the way, Li Jiao repeatedly hesitated to speak. San Yang is fine. Yang Kai knew what he wanted to ask, so he took the initiative to speak. Hearing this, Li Jiao's expression was somewhat complicated. In the end, he still said, "Thank you, Brother Yang, for taking care of me." Yang Kai nodded. San Yang is a good person. What happened back then wasn't her fault. Li Jiao said. I know, but sigh. He sighed heavily and shook his head continuously. Although Lu Sanyang was innocent in what happened back then, no man would be able to let go of such a thing easily. Yang Kai understood his feelings, so he just casually said a few words and didn't mention it anymore. After thinking for a while, he said, You are a dragon descendant, so you are too obvious a target. If other members of the dragon race find you, it may cause some accidents. You should go to a safe place. Li Jiao asked suspiciously, Where? Yang Kai stopped, turned around and slapped him, shouting, Don't resist. Li Jiao was startled and instinctively wanted to resist, but after hearing Yang Kai's words, he immediately relaxed. He believed that Yang Kai would not harm him. A wave of dizziness came and Li Jiao found that he had entered a very strange world. Returning to Fuqi's Soul Island, Yang Kai found Lu Sanyang and her mother. Without explaining anything, he put them into the small sealed world bead and let them meet with Li Jiao before flying towards the depths of the sea. Just like last time, after rushing into the sea, Yang Kai directly summoned the sealed world bead and hid in the small sealed world bead. There wasn't much time left, about 20 days at most, so he didn't want to waste a moment. After checking his herbs, Yang Kai took out all the auxiliary herbs needed to refine the dragon blood pill and piled them up beside him. Although he had a lot of spirit flowers and herbs on hand, and refining the dragon blood pill was not a problem, he had collected over 1,000 dragon blood flowers. If he really wanted to refine them, he could refine over 1,000 furnaces of dragon blood pills. But there weren't that many auxiliary herbs left. At most, he could refine another 20 furnaces of dragon blood pills before running out, so he had to calculate carefully. Among the thousands of dragon blood flowers, there were 100 to 200 mid-rank flowers, 20 to 30 high-rank flowers, and only 2 extreme-rank flowers. In order to ensure that the medicinal effects were maximized, he directly used high-rank dragon blood flowers to refine the dragon blood pills this time. Refining the pill furnace, controlling the fire, carving the spirit array, adding the herbs. After an hour, the first furnace of dragon blood pills had been refined. The result was just so. 4 dragon blood pills were not too many, but the quality was much better than before. After all, these pills were refined from high-rank dragon blood flowers, so the previous ones couldn't be compared. Yang Kai's expression was calm as an ancient well. After calming himself down, he directly began refining the second furnace of spirit pills. Then the third furnace, the fourth furnace. Practice makes perfect, and the quality of the dragon blood pills refined after that seemed to have improved. By the time he reached the 10th furnace, he had produced 5 pills, which was 1 more than the previous furnace. This was a good improvement. 1 more dragon blood pill meant 1 more guarantee, so Yang Kai was naturally happy. However, 5 dragon blood pills seemed to be the limit. After refining 20 furnaces, the number of pills did not increase, but the quality of the dragon blood pills seemed to have reached a limit. The medicinal efficacies contained in these spirit pills were simply incomparable to the ones he refined at the beginning. Calming his mind, Yang Kai sat cross-legged and circulated his secret art to restore his strength. A day later, Yang Kai opened his eyes and opened the furnace once again. He still had the last 2 batches of materials to refine the dragon blood pill, and these last 2 batches would naturally be refined with the 2 dragon blood flowers as the main ingredients. He had great expectations for these 2 batches of elixirs. All the procedures were easy to follow. After refining 20 furnaces of dragon blood pills, Yang Kai knew what to do even with his eyes closed. There was not the slightest mistake or flaw. When the first batch of spirit pills was refined, Yang Kai couldn't help but look forward to it. Putting away the spirit pills and taking a closer look, he suddenly beamed with joy. His luck was pretty good. He had used the dragon blood flower to refine a total of 6 spirit dawn, and 2 of them had even formed pill veins. These 2 spirit dawn were densely covered with veins, and they were extremely complex, just like the meridians of the human body. The value of a spirit pill with pill veins and a spirit pill without pill veins naturally could not be compared. This was also the standard to test whether an alchemy grandmaster was skilled or not. Although some alchemy grandmasters knew how to refine pills, they would never be able to refine a spirit pill with pill veins. This was because these alchemy grandmasters only followed the scriptures and did not have their own unique methods and insights. In other words, they did not have any spirituality when it came to alchemy, and everything was very rigid. Yang Kai was naturally different from those alchemists. Simply sorting out his mood, Yang Kai opened the furnace again and prepared to refine the last batch of spirit pills. This time, his condition was even better than before. After the pills formed, Yang Kai did not need to carefully examine them. He knew that the results would not be worse than before. The result was as expected. Of the 6 spirit pills, 3 had formed pill veins. At this point, Yang Kai was finally done with his alchemy. If he were to include the dragon blood pills that he had refined previously, he had refined a total of 25 batches of spirit pills without a single failure. Such a result would probably be praised by the great emperors of wondrous pills. He had close to 100 dragon blood pills, each of which was better than the previous one. Among them, 5 had even formed pill veins. He admired his masterpiece for a while. Without stopping, Yang Kai began his alchemy grandmaster plan. With a low roar, his body suddenly expanded and became as tall as a mountain. Taking out a dragon blood pill, he stuffed it into his mouth and swallowed it. Yang Kai activated the dragon transformation skill, and the dragon breath spread out. Just as Yang Kai was consuming dragon blood pills like eating candy, on a spirit island in the sea of the Dragon Palace. This spirit island was a little different from the other spirit islands. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, the cold air was oppressive, and the entire spirit island seemed to be frozen. There was even a thick layer of ice on the sea beside the island. This was actually an ice island. Everything on the ice island seemed to be frozen. There were no birds chirping or flowers fragrant. There was also no lush greenery. Other than the rich spiritual energy, the entire spirit island seemed to be filled with an extremely uncomfortable aura. It was extremely dull. Even in the dragon race, this ice island was not a place that could be approached casually. This was because this was the territory of the dragon race's second elder, Fu Sui. No matter which dragon race it was, no matter if it was the Fu faction or the Zhu faction, they were all in awe of the second elder. Especially after the incident that happened more than 10 years ago. This awe had almost increased to the level of fear. More than 10 years ago, the second elder had personally banished that person into the dragon tomb. In the entire dragon island, no one had the closest relationship with the second elder than her. The two of them were almost as close as mother and daughter. Even so, the second elder was merciless in his punishment. At that time, all the members of the dragon race knew that the second elder's iron blood was ruthless. At this very moment, Zhu Qing was under house arrest on this ice island. In the center of the ice island, there was a 10,000-year-old ice bed. Zhu Qing was sitting cross-legged. Her cultivation was suppressed and her dragon vein was sealed. The current Zhu Qing did not have the slightest bit of strength. Only her physical body was slightly stronger. However, under the erosion of this 10,000-year-old ice bed, her entire body would occasionally shiver. Her small face was pale, and the breath she exhaled was dense into fog. She knew that this was the punishment the second elder gave her, so she did not complain. She only silently endured it. Recalling the bits and pieces between her and Yang Kai, she felt a burst of pain in her heart. In this life, she did not know if she would have the chance to meet him again. She had fallen to such a state. Even if she had the chance in the future, she was afraid that she would not have the face to see him again. Before returning, she had already mentally prepared herself. She knew that the matter between her and Yang Kai would definitely be greatly hindered. However, she was part of the dragon race, and had no choice but to return. If she really stubbornly stayed by Yang Kai's side, she would definitely cause a huge trouble for Yang Kai. Therefore, she returned to Dragon Island with the hope of persuading the second elder. Chapter 3052. But what welcomed her was an unimaginable storm. Her cultivation was sealed, her dragon vein was suppressed, her marriage was bestowed to Fu Qi, and the wedding was to be held in a month's time. Everything happened so suddenly. She would rather be banished to the dragon tomb to fend for herself than marry another dragon race. There were not many dragon race members, and she knew what kind of person Fuqi was. Since a long time ago, this guy had thoughts about her, and had repeatedly requested the elders to bestow a marriage, harassing her non-stop. Zhu Qing had never paid attention to him, but she didn't expect him to succeed this time. She secretly made up her mind that if she really had no choice, she could only fight to the death. Rustling footsteps were heard. Zhu Qing opened her eyes to look, and there was a beautiful woman in white in front of her. This woman looked to be less than 30 years old. Her figure was full and round, and her appearance was stunning. Her silver hair was like snow-white silk, tied up in a woman's bun behind her head. But her beautiful face was like ice that wouldn't melt for 10,000 years, giving people a cold feeling just by looking at it, causing people to involuntarily feel apprehensive. Second elder. Although Zhu Qing resented her arbitrary behavior, she still had the necessary etiquette. Fuqi said indifferently, "Have you thought it through?" Zhu Qing said with a calm expression. Second elder knows Qing'er's thoughts, why ask? Fuqi said, "That's fine. The wedding is in a dozen days. You still have time to slowly think about it. When you have thought it through, great elder, and I will release the seal for you." Zhu Qing frowned. A forcibly picked melon is not sweet. Why does second elder have to force Qing? Like this? You're smart, Qing is not willing. Fuqi said, "The reproduction of the dragon race is the most important thing. So what if it's a little romantic? Furthermore, you actually dared to find a human. You're bringing shame to the dragon race." Zhu Qing said, "That's Qing'er's personal matter. What does it have to do with the dragon race?" Fu Tiai's expression turned even colder. "Since the bloodline of the dragon race flows in your body, then your words and actions are related to the reputation of the dragon race. I cannot allow you to do whatever you want." Zhu Qing said sadly. In second elder's eyes, is there nothing else other than the reproduction of the dragon race? Fuqi flicked his sleeves and said, "The dragon race is already rare, and the ratio of males to females is extremely unbalanced. If everyone doesn't listen to teachings like you, the dragon race will be destroyed very soon. As a dragon race, you have to think more about the dragon race." Zhu Qing laughed at herself. "I didn't expect Qing to shoulder the heavy responsibility of continuing the dragon race. Qing is really flattered. I know you resent me in your heart, but that doesn't matter. As long as you can give birth to a dragon child, what's the harm in being scolded by you?" Fu Ti looked at her and said, "Don't have any unrealistic thoughts. Before you and Fu Qi's dragon child are born, I will not give you the chance to kill yourself. Since I have said so, you should think more about it. Rather than suffering in the future, it's better to think it through earlier." After saying that, he turned around and walked out. Zhu Qing's body trembled slightly. She suddenly gritted her teeth and shouted, "Second elder, don't you have any regret for what happened more than 10 years ago? She is still suffering in the dragon tomb. It's not too late to let her out. If it's too late, it will be too late even if you regret it." Second elder's footsteps paused slightly. He said without turning his head, "You can only enter the dragon tomb but not leave. She only has herself to blame." Second elder's figure disappeared from her sight, and a bitter smile appeared on Zhu Qing's face. This time, she really realized second elder's heart of stone. She deliberately mentioned what happened more than 10 years ago, but it had no effect at all. Zhu Qing knew that she couldn't persuade second elder no matter what. A few li away, a well-built figure came up with a fawning smile on his face. He cupped his hands and said, "Greetings to second elder." Fu Ti frowned and looked at Fu Qi. "What are you doing here?" Fu Qi said carefully, "I came to see how Qing is doing." "You just met her. What did she say?" Fu Ti said, "Why do you care what she says? She will be yours in 10 days. Fu Qi chuckled. "That's right. Second elder, can I go in and see Qing? If I talk to her, she might change her mind. Her temper is not good now. If you go see her, it will only backfire." Fu Ti brushed past him and said, "Instead of spending time on her, you should prepare yourself." "Yes," Fu Qi responded respectfully. After being rejected by second elder, he didn't dare to insist. He came here today to see if he could see Zhu Qing and see if her attitude had changed. But after hearing Second Elder's words, he immediately understood that Zhu Qing was still the same. He couldn't help but feel annoyed. He was from the dragon race, an 8th rank lightning dragon. How could he not be compared to a human? Not only did that bitch Zhu Qing reject the marriage arranged by the elders, she was still thinking about that human. That human seemed to be called Yang Kai. Fu Qi secretly remembered this name and prepared to find trouble with that Yang Kai when the time was right. He hated Yang Kai for taking Zhu Qing's virginity. Zhu Qing was different from Fu Ling. She had a good reputation on Dragon Island, and because of that, he liked Zhu Qing a lot. He had chased after Zhu Qing many times before, but he didn't manage to win her heart. He didn't expect that she would get together with a human after going out for a trip. This made Fu Qi feel hatred, but it didn't matter now. The wedding was in 10 days, and Zhu Qing would become his woman. Moreover, Second Elder seemed to have said that as long as he and Zhu Qing didn't give birth to a dragon child, he wouldn't release Zhu Qing's seal. So even if Zhu Qing had a 9th order dragon vein now, he wasn't afraid. After the wedding, he could do whatever he wanted to her. Although there were many toys on the island, how could those ants compare to Zhu Qing? Fu Qi was looking forward to the wedding in 10 days. After hesitating on the ice island for a while, he immediately flew back to his spirit island. In order for the wedding to go on as scheduled, he had to ensure that the construction of the palace was completed. In the small sealed world, Yang Kai opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with dragon pressure. Over 100 dragon blood pills had been consumed, and even the mid-rank dragon blood flowers were eaten clean. Now, only low-ranked dragon blood flowers were left in his ring. Counting the days, it was almost time. Yang Kai stopped the dragon transformation art and returned to his human form. Sweeping with his divine sense, he found Li Jiao and Lu Sanyang somewhere in the small sealed world. The two seemed to want to bury the hatchet and were standing together talking. Lu Yuqin was hiding in the distance, timidly looking at them. When Yang Kai suddenly appeared, Li Jiao and Lu Sanyang were startled. Both of their expressions became a little unnatural. After all, being caught red-handed in front of a flower under the moonlight was a little embarrassing. Lu Sanyang's face turned red. Li Jiao was even more speechless. "Brother Yang, what is this place?" He had stayed here with Lu Sanyang and his daughter for a few days, so he was very sensitive to the fact that this was a small sealed world. He was secretly shocked. It was also at this time that he understood why he was able to avoid the corrosion of the demonic qi in the reincarnation world. In the reincarnation world, Yang Kai had knocked him out many times, and every time he was knocked out, the world principles would change. At that time, he should have been thrown into this small sealed world by Yang Kai, so he could avoid the misfortune of being infected by the demonic qi. Now that he thought about it, Yang Kai should not have trusted him at that time, so he knocked him out many times. But now he had obviously gained Yang Kai's trust. Yang Kai did not answer, but asked instead, "I'm going to teach Fu Qi a lesson." Li Jiao was stunned for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "I'm going to help Brother Yang." He did not know who Fu Qi was before, but after interacting with Lu Sanyang many times, he learned about the culprit who had harmed Lu Sanyang back then. He had long held a grudge against Fu Qi, so when he heard Yang Kai say this, how could he hold back? He and Fu Qi had a grudge that was equivalent to stealing his wife, so how could he not take revenge? Fu Qi was a rank 8 Thunder Dragon, so he had no chance of winning. Just a bloodline suppression was enough to make him helpless. But if he had Yang Kai's help, then the situation would be different. He did not expect to be Fu Qi's match, and only hoped to bite off a piece of Fu Qi's flesh to vent his anger. Lu Sanyang's expression changed greatly when she heard this, and she shouted, "You can't!" Li Jiao looked at her, and his expression softened as he smiled. "Wait for me. I'll take revenge for you. You can't go." Lu Sanyang's beautiful face turned pale. She went up and grabbed Li Jiao's arm, looking like she would not let go even if she died. Li Jiao could not bear to attack her, so he could only turn to look at Yang Kai. Yang Kai understood and raised his hand to point at Lu Sanyang. With a poke, Lu Sanyang fell limply to the ground. "Mother!" Lu Yuqin ran over from afar and exclaimed, holding Lu Sanyang in her arms. Your mother is fine. Li Jiao patted her head and sighed. Take good care of your mother. It's fine if I can come back, but if I can't. He paused for a long time before saying, ask your mother to bring you back to Rui's sect. Uncle Li. Lu Yuqin clearly sensed something, and looked at Li Jiao with red eyes. Although she did not know what the relationship between Li Jiao and her mother was, she had seen the events of the past few days. She had never seen her mother so happy before, so she knew that this Uncle Li must be a very important person in her mother's heart. This scene of life and death almost made her cry. Li Jiao smiled. Next time you see me, remember to call me father. Life and death were uncertain, and the future was full of troubles. Only at this moment did Li Jiao truly untie the knot in his heart. His heart was calm and clear, and he felt refreshed. Her vision blurred, and Li Jiao and Yang Kai disappeared without a trace. Lu Yuqin was slightly absent-minded. There were more than 100 of them, shuttling back and forth in the palace, inspecting everything. Wu Chen accompanied them by the side, nodding and bowing as he led the way. Today they were mainly in charge of welcoming the bride, so they naturally couldn't be careless. They knew that Fu Qi was going to marry their future mistress, and their life and death would be in the other party's hands. Therefore they were especially attentive. Even if there was a speck of dust in the palace, they would reprimand Wu Chen and order her to clean it up immediately. They were busy for 4 hours, and Wu Chen was so busy that she was disoriented. Many cultivator complained incessantly, but no one dared to complain under the tyrannical power of the dragon race. For hours later, all the preparations were complete. More than 100 women walked out of the palace and lined up neatly. They waited quietly, and the air was filled with all kinds of fragrances. The 300 cultivator also neatly spread out to the two sides. The scene was solemn and quiet. The 300 cultivator was mainly here to join in the fun, and didn't have any other mission. Yang Kai and Li Jiao were mixed in the crowd and didn't move. Perhaps because he was nervous, Li Jiao looked very anxious. He wanted to chat with Yang Kai to relieve the pressure, but he saw that Yang Kai had been resting with his eyes closed, and he didn't want to disturb him. In a flash, a thunderbolt suddenly appeared, and an unparalleled dragon's might filled the air. A figure sped over from the other side of the island and landed in front of the palace. Fu Qi wore a bright red robe today, which made him look very festive. Paired with his handsome face and unruly demeanor, the bright red color did not make him look tacky, but instead made him look even more charming. The 100 or so women were all in a daze, and the 300 martial artists also had serious expressions on their faces. The main character of today's wedding had appeared, and they naturally had to be alert. Master! A woman in palace attire standing at the front quickly greeted with a faint smile, but her expression was a little reserved. She wasn't as favored as Madame Hua, so she couldn't be at ease in front of Fu Qi. Fu Qi glanced over and nodded slightly. How are the preparations? That woman said, everything is ready. Now we just need to wait for the bride to come. Very good. After Fu Qi finished speaking, he didn't pay attention to that woman anymore. That woman wanted to say something but hesitated a few times. But in the end, she silently retreated. Li Jiao lowered his eyes, and Yang Kai closed his eyes. The two of them didn't look at Fu Qi. It wasn't that they didn't dare, but the inadvertent hostility in their eyes would reveal flaws and arouse others' vigilance. A group of people waited in front of the palace. After a short while, one dragon race cultivator after another arrived and congratulated him. Fu Qi warmly received them. Not long after, 6 or 7 dragon race cultivators gathered in front of the palace, talking loudly and laughing loudly. After another hour or so, a few high-pitched dragon roars suddenly came from the distance. The clouds in the sky were tumbling, and a huge cloud was rapidly advancing. It's here. A dragon race cultivator pointed at the cloud and said with a smile. Everyone looked over. Fu Qi tidied his clothes and put on a gentle smile on his face. The cloud was getting closer and closer, and the dragon roars were getting louder and louder. Suddenly, the cloud surged, and a giant figure appeared from within the cloud. It was a crimson dragon that was more than 200 feet long and covered in dragon scales. The crimson color was like a burning flame. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it rushed over. There was a burst of exclamations. Facing the true body of a dragon at such a close distance, no matter who it was, they would feel tremendous pressure. Chapter 3054. The Palanquin, and the person in the palanquin were the main characters today. The 4 dragons that appeared earlier were merely the palanquin drivers. Beside the palanquin stood 2 dragon ladies. One of them had fluttering purple hair, and it was Fu Ling. She was originally guarding the dragon blood flower, but today was the grand day of the dragon race, so she was naturally summoned back. The other dragon lady didn't look special. Other than her outstanding looks, she was no different from an ordinary human. The 2 dragon ladies held flower baskets and stood on the palanquin's left and right. When they flew over, the flower petals in the baskets flew out, creating a pleasing flower rain in the sky. It was extremely beautiful. The flower rain wasn't an ordinary flower rain. The petals of various colors exploded in the sky, and the colorful lights dazzled everyone. Just this scene alone was enough to make everyone unable to take their eyes off it. They secretly exclaimed that the dragon race was indeed a dragon race. Even a grand wedding could be played with so many tricks. Such extravagance wasn't something that ordinary people could compare to. Not long later, the palanquin arrived. The 4 dragons stopped and floated a few hundred feet away from the palace. Everyone looked at the palanquin, and a heartfelt smile appeared on Fu Qi's face. After today, the dragon lady in the palanquin would be his, and it was naturally a joyous occasion for Fu Qi. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures abruptly appeared. One was a middle-aged elder with a skinny figure and red hair. He had a dignified expression. Although he didn't reveal any aura, anyone could feel the immense pressure from him. That kind of indescribable pressure was something that even the 4 dragons that had revealed their true forms could not compare to. Beside the middle-aged elder was a silver-haired woman in palace attire with a cold expression. The aura that she exuded made everyone shudder. Everyone only took a quick glance at her and didn't dare to look at her again. It was as though their bodies and minds would be frozen if they looked at her too much. The last person wasn't very old. He was a man and looked like a young man. He had a gentle smile on his face as he stood there reservedly. Once the 3 of them appeared, Fu Qi and the others became serious. They bowed and said, "Greetings to the 3 elders." The arrogance of the dragon race was only targeted at creatures of other races. In front of the strong of the same race, even the most arrogant head would have to bow down. Hearing Fu Qi and the others' exclamations, the 300 cultivators' expressions changed slightly. They quickly lowered their heads and exclaimed in their hearts, "So these are the 3 elders of the dragon race. First elder Zhu Yan, second elder Fu Tu, 4th elder Zhu Kong." The 3 of them were overlords in the entire Dragon Island, especially the Great Elder and Second Elder. Both of them were ranked 10 dragon veins, and were invincible on the Dragon Island. Although that Zhu Kong did not have a rank 10 dragon bloodline, she was still a rank 9. Normal dragon race members would not be able to match her. It was said that in the past, there were 4 elders on the Dragon Island. There was also a 3rd elder, who also had a rank 9 dragon vein. However, for some unknown reason, the 3rd elder did not appear this time. However, this kind of secret was not something that an ordinary person could come into contact with. The 300 cultivators had been living in half of the Dragon City for a long time. Naturally, they were not clear about the internal situation of the Dragon Island. In front of the temporary imperial residence, there were more than a dozen dragon race members gathered. This could be said to be the power of the entire Dragon Island. Other than the grand wedding of the dragon race that happened once in 10,000 years, it was very difficult to have so many dragon race members gathered together. First Elder Zhu Yan's expression was as calm as an ancient well. Second Elder Fu Tu had a naturally cold expression. The 2 did not say much. Only the smiling 4th Elder Zhu Kong nodded towards Fu Qi. "Congratulations. Fu Qi respectfully said. Fu Qi is extremely grateful for the elder's love. Zhu Kong said. After the grand wedding, I hope that the two of you will treat each other with respect and love. Fu Qi quickly said. Fourth elder, don't worry. Fu Qi will definitely not treat Qing unfairly. I will also give birth to a dragon child for the Dragon Island as soon as possible and continue the bloodline. Zhu Kong smiled slightly and did not comment. Fu Tu frowned and said, Enough with the nonsense. Help Zhu Qing down. With her order, the dragons naturally did not dare to disobey. The 4 dragons in front of the sedan parted to the sides. Fu Ling and another dragon girl reached out and lifted the curtain, softly saying, Elder sister Qing, it's time to come down. Zhu Qing did not move and sat as steadily as a mountain. Fu Ling timidly sized up the second elder. Seeing that her expression was becoming colder and colder, she softly said a few words of persuasion, but it was to no avail. Fu Ling could not help but break out in a cold sweat. She naturally knew that Zhu Qing was not satisfied with this marriage. The entire Dragon Island knew, but the elders were here. Even if she was not willing, what could she do? If this matter was not handled properly, it would definitely become a joke. The smile on Fu Qi's face slowly disappeared, and he could not maintain his expression. Fu Tu's expression also became cold, as he turned to look at Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan looked down and remained indifferent. Fu Tu could not help but snort coldly in his heart. Just as he was about to personally get Zhu Qing out of the sedan, a figure suddenly flashed past. In front of the sedan, a young man leisurely appeared. Most people did not notice how he had appeared, but the elders of the dragon race narrowed their eyes and looked towards that person. Fu Zhen frowned and shouted, Chase him away. What was this person doing? He actually ran out in this kind of situation and blocked the front of the sedan. Was he seeking death? If it was any other time, Fu Tu would have already killed him. But today was the wedding of the dragon race. It would be best if there was no bloodshed, so she endured for a while. A resounding dragon's roar rang out as the 200-foot-long red dragon coiled its body around the palanquin. It raised its head high and stared at the palanquin with its eyes wide open. It looked like it was going to protect the palanquin. The other 3 dragons were immediately blocked outside. Zhu Lai, what are you doing? Fu Qi frowned as she looked at the red dragon pulling the sedan. The dragon opened its mouth and Zhu Lai's voice boomed like thunder. Nothing, please wait for a moment. Zhu Yan, who had been calm the entire time, finally looked up. After seeing the back of the figure blocking the front of the sedan, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. Zhu Kong also had a surprised expression. Even if his cultivation was not bad, he was still a little confused at this moment. Under everyone's gazes, Yang Kai gently took a deep breath and looked at the person in the sedan with the red veil on her head. Reaching out, he gently smiled and said, I've come to pick you up. With these words, everyone was shocked. The 300 cultivator all looked at Yang Kai's back in shock, crying out in grief in the depths of their hearts. What was this? Acting so presumptuously in front of more than a dozen members of the dragon race. And even saying such words to a dragon girl who was about to get married. This was crazy. If something similar happened in human territory, it would definitely be a case of bride kidnapping. But what kind of place was this? This was Dragon Island. Today was the wedding day of 2 members of the dragon race. This guy shouldn't have lost his mind, right? Had he brought the bride kidnapping to the dragon race? The group of dragon race cultivators had strange expressions. It was clear that they had not yet recovered. Fu Qi was the same. He still had not realized what the scene before him meant. But in the next moment, his face suddenly turned ashen. Because after that human said those words, Zhu Qing, who had been sitting in the sedan the entire time, suddenly trembled. Pulling off the red veil on her head, she looked forward in shock and cried out, Why have you come? She simply did not dare believe her eyes. Yang Kai had actually appeared before her. Looking at the face that she had been thinking about day and night, Zhu Qing even thought that she was dreaming for a moment. But the person before her was so real. That familiar aura and smell told her that this was not a dream. Yang Kai really came. He appeared in front of all the dragon race cultivators without any hesitation, and on such a day that made her despair. The person in front of her was like a burning sun, his bright light sweeping away the haze in her heart. To pick you up. Yang Kai winked at her. Zhu Qing's eyes immediately reddened. She shook her head and said, "You shouldn't have come." She was happy, but more than that, she was worried for Yang Kai. If Yang Kai did not come today, she would only be suffering alone. But since Yang Kai was here, how could he escape? The dragon race could not stand humiliation. After today, Yang Kai would most likely become the enemy of the entire dragon race. There was no hope for him to leave here alive. So it's like that. Yang Kai lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then he turned around and said, "Then I'll be leaving." "You dare." Zhu Qing panicked. She hurriedly stood up and rushed out. She grabbed his arm and glared at him as she said, "You're already here and you want to leave?" Yang Kai grinned. "It looks like you don't want to get married. That's good." Zhu Qing grabbed his arm, and her expression suddenly dimmed. "We'll die. In life, we'll share the same bed. In death, we'll share the same cave. That's not a bad thing." Zhu Qing's eyes were a bit wet. She leaned against him. In a short moment, she had thought it through. Yang Kai was already here, so it was not realistic for him to leave. The only thing she could do was to face the storm of the dragon race with him. She slowly turned her head and looked at her clansmen. She saw countless pairs of incredulous eyes. There were not many things in the world that could shock the dragon race, but the scene in front of them was definitely one of them. At the dragon race's wedding, there was actually someone who dared to steal the bride. The one stealing the bride was actually a human. Zhu Qing was actually very close to that human. The dragon race cultivators were all dumbfounded. If the dragon race was like this, then there was no need to mention the humans and beasts. They were all dumbfounded. Of the 300 cultivators that stayed to watch the ceremony, many of them did not like Yang Kai. After all, in the past month, they had worked hard, but Yang Kai did not need to do anything. Naturally, they felt that it was unfair. Only now did they realize that this person was so fierce. They did not know what kind of bear heart or leopard guts he ate to actually dare to steal the bride of the dragon race. Compared to this, what did the past month of slacking off count for? There were many strange things in the world, but today's matter was an eye-opener for everyone. Fu Qi's expression was especially ugly. The person he was going to marry was actually holding on to another man's arm, looking like they were in love. They even said that they would share the same bed if they were born, and share the same cave if they died. What did this put him in? Once this matter was out, no matter how it was resolved, Fu Qi would lose face. Fu Ling had tried to persuade her several times before, but Zhu Qing did not move at all in the carriage, making him feel awkward. Instead, this human just said a few words, and Zhu Qing actually took the initiative to rush out. Chapter 3055. This was simply a great humiliation to him. Not only was this a humiliation to him, but it was also a humiliation to the entire dragon race. His eyes were extremely cold as he looked at Yang Kai, as if he was looking at a dead man. Where did this blind fool come from? How dare he be so impudent? He was furious as he roared. His wedding was disrupted by someone else, and his dragon lady was in someone else's embrace. No matter how good Fu Qi's self-control was, he still couldn't tolerate it. Zhu Qing stared at him coldly and said, "Fu Qi, you better watch your mouth. This is my man." "Your man?" Fu Qi's eyes popped out as he staggered. He suddenly came back to his senses and looked at Yang Kai with resentment. "It's you." He knew that Zhu Qing was having an affair with a human outside. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have had the chance to get the marriage arranged by the elders. He originally wanted to subdue Zhu Qing after the wedding, then leave the Dragon Island to find trouble with that human. Who knew that this guy actually came to the Dragon Island by himself, and even acted so impudently on his wedding day? Fu Qi's face immediately turned green, and his eyes were filled with hatred and anger. He had already put Yang Kai on the list of people he must kill, so it was natural for his eyes to turn red when he saw his enemy. "That's right, I am her man." Yang Kai smiled faintly, hugged Zhu Qing and kissed her forehead. His posture was unrestrained, as if there was no one around. Fu Qi's face became even more unsightly. His bride was kissed by another man in front of so many people. And not only did she not reject it, she even revealed a blushing expression. The anger in his chest was like a volcano that was about to erupt, and even the breath he exhaled became hot and heavy. On the other side of the three elders, Zhu Yan looked at Yang Kai in amazement. He only just realized Yang Kai's identity, so he wasn't angry, and was even a little surprised. He didn't approve of the marriage between Zhu Qing and Fu Qi. But Zhu Qing did make a mistake, and the dragon race needed to continue their bloodline. Since the second elder was determined to do it, he couldn't interfere too much, and could only let the situation develop. In his opinion, after Zhu Qing and Fu Qi got married, she might forget about that human after a few hundred years. At that time, it wouldn't be too late to make further plans. Who knew that such a scene would happen today? Fu Qi glanced at Zhu Yan coldly and snorted. Do you know something? How could Dragon Island be entered and exited as one wished? As early as 10 years ago, Dragon Island had strengthened its defenses. Even if the great emperors came personally, the dragon race would sense it. When the time came, the entire race would move out, and the great emperors would not be able to barge in. She suspected that the reason why Yang Kai could enter Dragon Island was because of the Great Elder. Zhu Yan shook his head and said, What can I know? Fu Qi snorted coldly, feeling puzzled. If this matter had nothing to do with the Great Elder, how did this person appear on Dragon Island without anyone knowing? Could it be that the arrangements made over 10 years ago were ineffective? A trace of uneasiness suddenly surged in his heart, and Fu Qi frowned. This guy's courage is not small. The fourth elder, Zhu Kong, looked at Yang Kai with interest and said with a smile, No wonder Qing is so loyal to him. I just don't know how his luck is. If today's matter was not handled well, he and Zhu Qing would face a great disaster. The impartial second elder did not have any human feelings. Hearing this, the great elder's expression could not help but become solemn. May I ask which one is the second elder? Yang Kai turned his head and looked at the three elders. Although he asked like this, his gaze was fixed on Fu Qi's face. Among the three elders, the great elder and the second elder were both 10th-order dragon veins, so it was easy to distinguish them. The elderly man was older than this cold-faced woman, so the leader of the elders was naturally the great elder. Therefore, even if it was the first time Yang Kai saw the second elder, he could recognize her at a glance. He was cursing in his heart. This woman's cold face was like ice that would not melt even after 10,000 years. Who knew who she was showing this expression to? He did not have the slightest good impression of this second elder, and even felt some resentment towards her. This woman was simply too bored. He did not know what was wrong with her brain, but she actually took the initiative to bestow Zhu Qing to Fu Qi, although he was unhappy. Yang Kai did not want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Dragon Island. It would be best if today's matter could be resolved peacefully. If it really could not be resolved, then he could only fight. He was already mentally prepared that he would rather die than live in dishonor. No matter what, he would take away Zhu Qing today, even if he had to turn this place upside down. Let go of her. The second elder coldly spat out this sentence. Her tone was filled with an unquestionable feeling. She did not answer Yang Kai's question. Yang Kai stared at her and said with a calm expression, This junior Yang Kai greets the second elder. I came here abruptly today because I had no other choice. I hope the second elder can be magnanimous. I know who you are. Fu Qi stared at him coldly and said indifferently, If you want to live, let go of Zhu Qing. Yang Kai shook his head and said, Qing and I are in love with each other. The second elder should be well aware of this matter. Seeing that she is in trouble today, I specially came to save her from the fire and water. I am not holding her hostage, so how can I let her go? Did the second elder make a mistake? I said let her go. The second elder shouted in a low voice. The surrounding temperature plummeted, and the laws of heaven and earth became chaotic. Those hundreds of cultivators, regardless of their level of cultivation, were all trembling. When a powerhouse comparable to the great emperors was angry, not many people present could withstand it. They looked at Yang Kai as if they were looking at a monster. They thought to themselves, even the second elder of the dragon race is so angry, Yet you still dare to talk back to her so wantonly. You must be tired of living. The anger in Yang Kai's heart surged, and his face turned gloomy. He didn't want to make things too tense with the dragon race. It wasn't that he was afraid, but Zhu Qing was also a dragon race. If he didn't have a good relationship with the dragon race, it would only put Zhu Qing in a difficult position. That was why he kept lowering his attitude and spoke sincerely. But he didn't expect the second elder to be so arrogant and order him around. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He said in a low voice, "I hope the second elder can give this junior and Qing a chance. We husband and wife will be eternally grateful." Husband and wife. Fu Yun's beautiful eyebrows suddenly jumped up, and she said in a cold voice, "Zhu Qing is getting married to Fu Qi today. And her husband is only Fu Qi. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak so arrogantly and ruin the reputation of our dragon race?" Zhu Qing immediately retorted, "The second elder is wrong. Qing'er's husband is only him. Whether the dragon race recognizes it or not, in this life, Qing'er is his." "How dare you?" Fu Yun shouted. Her dragon power almost materialized and instantly shrouded Yang Kai and Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing's face turned pale, and she collapsed in Yang Kai's arms. Her dragon vein was sealed, and her cultivation was suppressed. She was the first to bear the brunt of the second elder's anger. How could she bear it? If it wasn't for her strong body, she would have lost her life. Yang Kai also suddenly felt dizzy. His head buzzed, and he was overwhelmed with shock. The anger of the great emperors. This was the anger of the great emperors. With his current strength, he was still too weak to face it head-on. Zhu Qing's resistance had undoubtedly completely enraged Fu Yun. She looked at Yang Kai coldly and said, "Today is a joyous day for the dragon race. I didn't want to kill, but since you are so stubborn, don't blame me for being merciless." As she spoke, her killing intent was like a tide. Everyone's expression changed. Even if they weren't targeted, the hundreds of cultivators had difficulty breathing. They felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on their chest, and they were about to vomit blood. It was as if they could die at any time. If they were like this, then what about Yang Kai, who was targeted? Yang Kai's situation was naturally not good. When the killing intent shrouded him, he felt a clear sense of death that he had never felt before. His whole body turned ice cold, and his blood was almost frozen. Fu Qi stood at the side and watched coldly. He was delighted to see the situation. Yang Kai's previous words made him burn with anger and lose face. If it wasn't because the elders were here, he would have already made a move on Yang Kai. It was just that he didn't dare to be too presumptuous in front of the elders. Now that he saw the second elder was really angry, he immediately rejoiced in his misfortune. In the entire Dragon Island, no one didn't know the second elder's temper. She always meant what she said, and no one dared to disobey her. Yang Kai being so stubborn, he was destined to not have a good ending. As this thought flashed through his mind, he stared at Zhu Qing, who was nestled in Yang Kai's arms with resentment. He secretly made up his mind that after the marriage, he would definitely dote on this slut. How hateful! This slut's primordial een was actually taken away by that human. A dragon lady's primordial een was a great supplement, and this was true for both the dragon race and humans. He was an 8th rank thunder dragon. If he could get the help of Zhu Qing's primordial een, he might have a chance to break through to the 9th rank. Unfortunately, thinking of this, Fu Qi couldn't help but feel a little depressed. He glanced at Yang Kai with hatred. "Wait!" Yang Kai suddenly gritted his teeth and shouted, the veins on his forehead bulging. The second elder looked at him coldly and didn't move at all. She raised her hand slightly, and in the center of her fair palm, the law surged and a chill spread out. She looked like she was going to kill him. Yang Kai flipped his wrist, and a token suddenly appeared in his hand as he shouted, "The Dragon Island token is here." Fu Qi's movements paused. The head elder, Zhu Yan, who had been silent the entire time, also took a serious look at the token in Yang Kai's hand and nodded, saying, "Not bad. This is indeed the Dragon Island token." Zhu Kong said, "Oh, the final Dragon Island token is actually in your hands? This really is interesting." The Dragon Island token was something that came out of the dragon race, and there were only 10 of them. Over the countless years, the dragon race had put in a lot of effort, but they had only managed to retrieve 9 of them. The final one was still outside, and there had been no news of it. The last time Zhu Qing left Dragon Island, her main mission was to find this final Dragon Island token. Unfortunately, although she had found out that the Dragon Island token was in Yang Kai's hands, she was unable to retrieve it successfully. Through various coincidences, she had developed an extremely close relationship with Yang Kai. For Yang Kai to take out this Dragon Island token and show it to others, his intentions were very clear. Chapter 3056. When the Dragon Island medallion appeared, everyone was in an uproar. The few hundred cultivators had been living in half of Dragon City for a long time, so they were naturally familiar with the Dragon Island medallion. However, they had only heard about it, and this was the first time they had seen the real thing. In an instant, a few hundred pairs of eyes looked towards the Dragon Island medallion, unable to take their eyes off it. Fu Qi sneered and said, "You casually took out a medallion and called it a Dragon Island medallion? Do you really think that the dragon race is easy to fool?" He was really angry at Yang Kai, so he mocked him. Yang Kai looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. "Great Elder already said that this is a Dragon Island medallion. Do you have better eyesight than Great Elder? Or do you not trust Great Elder?" Fu Qi was startled and said with an ugly expression, "Brat, don't slander me." Even if he was a rank 8 lightning dragon, he could not take the label of not trusting Great Elder. He quickly looked towards Zhu Yan and said, "Great Elder, that's not what I meant." Zhu Yan waved his hand slightly, then looked at Yang Kai and said, "Although I also feel that the aura of this Dragon Island medallion is pure, I still need to check if it's a real Dragon Island medallion. If it's convenient, can you let me take a look?" Yang Kai lowered his head and looked towards Zhu Qing. Seeing Zhu Qing nod, he smiled and said, "Then I'll leave it to Great Elder." He extended his hand and tossed the Dragon Island medallion towards the Great Elder. Great Elder received it, formed a seal with his hand, and tapped on the medallion with his finger. In an instant, the dragon image on the medallion suddenly moved, and a loud dragon roar was heard. Fourth Elder Zhukong nodded and said, "That's right, it's a Dragon Island medallion without a doubt." Actually, when they saw the medallion, the few elders were already 80% sure. However, this was a serious matter, so it was more appropriate to verify it. Yang Kai smiled faintly. "I heard that the holder of the Dragon Island medallion can make a request to the Dragon Island." Speaking up to this point, his expression suddenly changed. He said in shock and anger, "What are you doing?" Just as he was speaking, the second elder suddenly extended her hand and grabbed the Dragon Island medallion in the Great Elder's hand. Her movement was extremely fast. Her white hand turned into a series of afterimages and swept toward the Dragon Island medallion. The Great Elder obviously didn't expect that Fu Zhen would suddenly make a move. He turned his wrist to avoid it. Unexpectedly, the second elder was already prepared and followed him like a shadow. The two Great Elders of the dragon race didn't move, but their hands turned into countless afterimages as they silently clashed. After a loud bang, everything returned to normal. Zhu Yan frowned, while Fu Tin's expression remained cold. Zhu Kong looked at Zhu Yan, then at Fu Tin, letting out a long sigh. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the Dragon Island token in the Great Elder's hand suddenly turned into a pile of fine powder. It fell through the gaps between his fingers and disappeared completely in the blink of an eye. What is the second elder's intention? Yang Kai had a sullen expression as he gritted his teeth and looked at Fu Tin. He never thought that this woman would actually destroy his Dragon Island medallion in public. This was simply shameless. He found it hard to imagine that a powerhouse comparable to the great emperors would actually do such a thing in front of so many people. Previously, he didn't really trust this woman. That was why he gave the Dragon Island medallion to the Great Elder after consulting with Zhu Qing. However, he didn't expect that he still miscalculated. Zhu Yan also turned to look at Fu Tin, as if waiting for her to give an explanation. Fu Tin said indifferently, This one doesn't need to explain too much to you. Since the Great Elder and the Fourth Elder both believe that it's the Dragon Island medallion, this one naturally won't go back on my word. Let's just say that it's the Dragon Island medallion for now. Let's just say. The veins on Yang Kai's forehead throbbed. Wasn't she just lying through her teeth? How could she deny the authenticity of the Dragon Island medallion just by saying, let's just say let? Fu Tin didn't continue to argue with him on this issue. She only said coldly, you trespassed on the Dragon Island without the permission of the dragon race. This is your first crime. Pestering endlessly on the wedding day of the dragon race is your second crime. Tarnishing the reputation of the dragon race's dragon lady is your third crime. These crimes deserve to be punished. However, this one won't kill you today. Take that Dragon Island medallion as an exchange for your life. Quickly back off. Yang Kai refused to accept this and said, didn't I say that I want to exchange that Dragon Island medallion for my life? Isn't the second elder being too arbitrary? He was really angered. He took out the Dragon Island medallion, but before he could state his request, it was destroyed by this woman. After that, she even said that she wanted to exchange the Dragon Island medallion for his life, as if it was a matter of course. She couldn't force a deal to this extent. Not exchanging your life. You want to die. Yang Kai straightened his neck and shouted, I want your Dragon Island to release my people. Let me and Qing'er leave this place. Wishful thinking. Fu Si sneered. Zhu Qing said with a pained heart, Second Elder, according to the dragon race's rules, the holder of the Dragon Island medallion can make a reasonable request to the dragon race. Although you are the Second Elder, you can't ignore the teachings of your ancestors. Yang Kai turned his head and looked at Zhu Yan. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. Great Elder, I need an explanation. It was impossible to reason with Fu Si. This bitch was like a piece of stubborn ice that couldn't be melted. No matter how much he said, it would be useless. It would only make him angry. Yang Kai could only shift the focus to Zhu Yan. The Dragon Island medallion was destroyed in his hands. No matter what, he couldn't escape the responsibility. Zhu Yan nodded his head and said, that's right. There is indeed such a rule in the dragon race. Yang Kai's expression turned serious. He cupped his fist and said, if that's the case, I have no other request. I only hope that the Great Elder can let me and Qing'er leave safely. Zhu Yan remained silent for a while. He shook his head and said, I'm afraid that won't do. Great Elder. The hope in Zhu Qing's eyes dimmed. If the Great Elder didn't make the decision today, she and Yang Kai wouldn't be able to leave this place. Yang Kai sneered. The dragon race is truly awe-inspiring. I have learned something today. The Great Elder shook his head and said, it's not that I want to make things difficult for you. It's just that your request goes against the rules of the dragon race. I can't agree to it. The Second Elder is right. You have the Dragon Island medallion. We should fulfill your request. However, this request must be reasonable. If you want to leave with Zhu Qing, that's impossible. Therefore, you should leave by yourself. The Great Elder's words were within Yang Kai's expectations. Therefore, he wasn't too disappointed. Previously, he had asked Zhu Lai if he could use the Dragon Island medallion to exchange for Zhu Qing. At that time, Zhu Lai had rejected his idea. Taking out the Dragon Island medallion today was just a fluke attempt. Now it seemed that Zhu Lai was right. Even if he had the Dragon Island medallion, the dragon race wouldn't agree to taking away a dragoness so easily. Zhu Kong also said, that's right. You can leave. The dragon race won't make things difficult for you today. According to the dragon race's personality, if it was anyone else who dared to cause trouble today, they would have died without a burial site. However, Yang Kai did indeed have the Dragon Island medallion. Even if he was rude today, the Dragon Island medallion would be enough to protect his life. Of course, the prerequisite was that Yang Kai had to adapt to the situation. Leave? The Second Elder suddenly snorted. Did I say that I would let him leave? Hearing this, Yang Kai curled his lips and sneered. Second Elder, are you going back on your word and want to kill me to the last one? Very well, then let's see who's the real deal. If this young master doesn't have a good time, your dragon race can forget about having a peaceful time. What arrogance! Fu Qi coldly snorted. Many members of the dragon race also had gloomy expressions. Yang Kai's words had undoubtedly angered everyone. Daring to steal the bride during the dragon race's wedding, the dragons had long found Yang Kai an eyesore. Now that he was about to die, he still dared to boast so shamelessly. He really didn't know how high the heavens were. Whether or not I'm arrogant depends on whether or not I'm capable. Yang Kai glanced at Fu Qi and secretly made up his mind. If he really wanted to make a move, he would be the first to make a move. This idiot actually dared to steal his woman. Yang Kai had to vent the anger that he had suppressed for a month. Second Elder. Zhu Yan looked at Fu Qi with a frown. The dragon race is a man of his word. What do you mean by this? The Dragon Island order had already been destroyed. What harm was there in letting him go? He could not understand why Fu Qi would go back on his word. This one naturally means what he says. Fu Qi indifferently looked at Yang Kai. This one said that I won't kill him, so I won't kill him. But when did I say that I would let him go? If I don't leave behind the dragon race's source, he can forget about leaving Dragon Island. Once this was said, Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong's expressions turned serious. They immediately knew what Fu Qi was planning. Yang Kai possessed the ancestral dragon's source. Since he had walked right into their trap, they naturally could not let him go so easily. The ancestral dragon's source was very important. If they could obtain it, the strength of the entire dragon race would increase by a large amount. Zhu Yan previously wanted Zhu Qing to invite Yang Kai to Dragon Island because of the ancestral dragon's source. Therefore, after realizing the second elder's intentions, Zhu Yan could not refute him. Based on what he knew, Yang Kai was proficient in the laws of space. If he really was allowed to leave today, who knew if he would have a chance to find him in the future? He let out a long sigh and immediately shut his mouth. Second Elder, don't go overboard. Zhu Qing was so angry that her entire body was trembling. You dare to speak to me like this? Fu Qi's gaze turned sharp. What are you shouting for? Yang Kai's gaze was even fiercer than Fu Qi's. Qing is speaking to you like this. So what? Brat, you're pushing your luck and don't know when to stop. You're courting death. When had Fu Qi ever been offended like this? In her anger, she could no longer hold it in, and raised her hand to slap Yang Kai. Her palm instantly turned into ice crystals, as if it was carved out of jade. The unparalleled ice laws turned into a whirlpool and swallowed Yang Kai. Her palm rapidly enlarged in front of Yang Kai's eyes, as if it could cover the sky. Yang Kai shouted in a low voice. Is your dragon race going overboard? Or am I pushing my luck? While speaking, he pushed Zhu Qing away. Under everyone's flabbergasted gaze, he did not retreat, and went straight for the second elder. Roar! At the same time as a furious roar was heard, Yang Kai's figure suddenly expanded, and turned into a huge monster that was 80 feet tall. There were short horns on his head and scales all over his body. His flesh and blood wriggled rapidly, and a series of crackling sounds came from his bones. His hands also suddenly turned into sharp dragon claws. Unparalleled dragon's aura spread out, and 2 streams of boiling hot air came out from his nostrils. Dragon Transformation Secret Art. A series of exclamations sounded. Many members of the dragon race were dumbfounded. Dragon Transformation Secret Art was the dragon race's secret art. They were naturally familiar with it. But it was also the first time they saw someone use Dragon Transformation Secret Art to such an extent. A body of 80 feet. Even though it was only half a dragon's body, it gave people an extremely strong sense of oppression, especially that dragon's breath that was incomparably pure. Chapter 3057. Some of the 6th and 7th ranked dragon race members secretly compared themselves. Even if there was no bloodline suppression, they would not be able to gain any advantage against such a guy. Their faces could not help but become more dignified, and they no longer had their previous contempt and arrogance. Revealing his half-dragon body, Yang Kai immediately urged his dragon pressure to cover Fu Zhen. Fu Zhen's expression did not change, and the jade-like hand that he sent out became more and more crystal clear. In a flash, the two had already exchanged blows. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Fu Zhen's hand easily broke through all of Yang Kai's defenses and lightly pressed against his chest. Silently, Yang Kai's spacious chest suddenly caved in, as if it had been hit by a huge rock. His back bulged out in an instant, and a shock wave visible to the naked eye exploded behind him, shaking his soul. Kacha! Only at this time did a sound come out, but it was the sound of countless bones breaking, which made people shudder. After a slight pause, the half-dragon body that was more than 80 feet tall was sent flying, like thunder and lightning. In the blink of an eye, he flew thousands of feet away, and golden blood splattered along the way, drawing a golden straight line. Overestimating himself, many dragon race members looked at Yang Kai who was sent flying, and this thought emerged in their minds. Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong looked at each other, and secretly shook their heads. Although Yang Kai had the power of the golden divine dragon source, and his strength was not weak, the second elder was a powerhouse comparable to the great emperors after all, and he also had a 10th rank dragon vein. He urged his dragon pressure at the first moment, but it did not cause any bloodline suppression on the second elder. Without the advantage of bloodline suppression, how could Yang Kai resist the power of the second elder's palm? This light palm immediately made Yang Kai realize the gap between himself and the great emperors. He did not even hurt a hair on Fu Zhen's head just now. The scene was quiet, and only a bone-chilling aura shrouded the surroundings. Fu Zhen coldly stared at Yang Kai, who was barely able to stop himself, with an indifferent expression. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. She slowly turned her head and looked to the side. Her eyes slowly narrowed as she said calmly, "Zhu Qing, do you know what you are doing?" Hearing her say this, everyone suddenly came back to their senses and looked in that direction. At first glance, everyone was dumbfounded. It was unknown when Zhu Qing had come to Fu Qi's side. Her dragon's might emanated and shrouded Fu Qi. Her jade-like hand had already transformed into a dragon claw and clasped onto Fu Qi's head. She stared at Fu Qi as though she was facing a great enemy. She did not have much of a reaction when Yang Kai was injured. It was not that she did not care about Yang Kai's life or death, but she did not dare to be distracted. In front of the great emperors, the slightest bit of carelessness was enough to cause Yang Kai's plan to fail. Therefore, she did not even dare to think of looking back to check on Yang Kai's injuries. That sharp dragon claw had already pierced into Fu Qi's flesh. It was as though she could kill Fu Qi on the spot with just a slight push. Fu Qi obviously did not expect such a thing to happen. He was just mocking Yang Kai for being an ant trying to shake a tree. When he saw Yang Kai suffering under the second elder's hand, he was secretly happy. He could not wait for the second elder to take Yang Kai's life with that palm. Before he could finish his thoughts, a figure flashed in front of him. Zhu Qing appeared behind him. Immediately, he felt the suppression of the rank 9 dragon vein, and felt the pain coming from his head. Fu Qi's face immediately turned ashen. It was as ugly as it could get. The suppression of a rank 9 dragon vein against a rank 8 dragon vein was not too harsh. If they really fought head-on, Fu Qi would be able to hold on for a while. However, Zhu Qing was already prepared and took the initiative. Now, she could completely control Fu Qi's life and death. Everyone's expressions were brilliant in an instant. The scene in front of them was really strange. Today was supposed to be the wedding day of Fu Qi and Zhu Qing. They were wearing bright red clothes for both days. They should be a pair in heaven and a pair on earth. But at this very moment, the bride was actually looking like she wanted to kill the groom. This scene was very awkward no matter how one looked at it. Zhu Qing did not answer. All of her attention was placed on Fu Qi. "Your seal has actually been undone." Zhu Kong frowned, feeling a little incredulous. When did this happen? It had to be known that Zhu Qing's dragon vein had been suppressed and her cultivation had been sealed. However, looking at her now, she did not look like she had been suppressed or sealed at all. She had clearly recovered, which was why she was able to catch them off guard. So that's how it is. A look of understanding flashed through Zhu Yan's eyes. He was secretly shocked as he looked at Yang Kai, who was holding his chest and shaking his head as he flew back. "Look at what you've done." Fu Qi angrily glared at Yang Kai and shouted. There was no reason for Zhu Qing's seal to be undone inexplicably. From beginning to end, Only Yang Kai had come into contact with Zhu Qing. If there was anyone who could unseal Zhu Qing without anyone noticing, it could only be Yang Kai. How could he have this kind of ability? That seal was something that she had personally used. You guys are allowed to do this, but this young master is not allowed to do it? What kind of logic is this? Yang Kai's expression was a little ferocious. There was still some golden blood at the corner of his mouth that had not been wiped clean. His chest had also not completely recovered, and was still somewhat caved in. Fu Qi's palm strike had not been easy to bear. Even if it did not take his life, it had shaken his blood and qi, causing several of his bones to break. His 80-meter-tall figure stepped through the air and stood in front of Zhu Qing like a small mountain, facing the pressure of the three great elders of the dragon race head-on. Seeing that he was full of energy and was not seriously injured, Zhu Qing, who had been on tenterhooks, finally breathed a sigh of relief, her nervous expression becoming much calmer. Qing'er did well. Yang Kai praised without even turning his head. In the end, they were husband and wife, and had a tacit understanding. He did not have time to explain his plan to Zhu Qing in detail, but Zhu Qing had still made the most correct choice at the crucial moment. Creating a diversion. Zhu Kong raised her eyebrows. She also wanted to understand what had happened in that short moment. Yang Kai had used the dragon transformation art to transform into 8 dragon bodies to fight with the second elder. It seemed extremely reckless and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth, but in reality, it was just to attract everyone's attention. Taking advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was on him, Zhu Qing, who was being blocked by his huge body, had the space to act as she wished. Reality proved that this move was very effective. Originally, Yang Kai was just a fish on the chopping board. In a place like Dragon Island, he was completely at the mercy of the dragon race. It was impossible for him to have any strength left to resist. But now, the situation was a little different. Zhu Qing's seal had been broken, her strength had been restored, and Fu Qi was also in her hands. She looked like she was going to perish together with him at any moment. Enduring the second elder's thunderous attack, Yang Kai had already grasped a bit of the initiative. Such deep scheming, such a bold plan. Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong were slightly moved, secretly feeling that if today's matter could not be resolved perfectly, Dragon Island would most likely have to make a powerful enemy. Zhu Qing, do you want to rebel? Why haven't you released Fu Qi yet? What a scandal! Fu Tianyi's expression was ice-cold, and his voice was similarly bone-chilling. Zhu Qing's expression did not change, only replying, I will listen to Yang Kai. If he says to release, then I will release. Fu Tianyi was furious. Don't forget that you are a member of the dragon race. You are a member of Dragon Island. The crime of harming your own race, you should know what kind of punishment you will receive. Seeing that she was really angry, many members of the dragon race trembled with fear. They had not seen the second elder completely angry for a long time. The last time was more than 10 years ago, and the result of the second elder's anger was that her favorite person was sent to the dragon tomb. And that person was the third elder of the dragon race at that time. Zhu Qing now had a rank 9 dragon vein. Logically speaking, she could become the 5th elder of the dragon race. But so what? Even the third elder was personally sent to the dragon tomb by the second elder. How could Zhu Qing be spared? Harming your own race. Yang Kai snorted coldly, turning his hand and grabbing. A huge palm directly grabbed Fu Qi, enveloping Fu Qi with his dragon might. Fu Qi cried out in alarm. A feeling of fear actually emerged from his bones. He was only rank 8. Zhu Qing's rank 9 dragon vein could already suppress him, not to mention Yang Kai's golden divine dragon source. If it was Yang Kai a month ago, even if he used the dragon transformation ability, he would not be so afraid. But in this 1 month, Yang Kai's dragon transformation ability had improved tremendously, and the fusion of the golden divine dragon source with his own body could not be compared to before. Fu Qi only felt the dragon yuan in his body stagnate in an instant, almost unable to circulate. This was not the most unbearable thing for him. The most unbearable thing was that he, a rank 8 lightning dragon, was actually being held in Yang Kai's hand like a toy, under the gaze of hundreds of eyes. He immediately felt ashamed and resentful. You bitch, you sealed Qing'er's cultivation, suppressed her dragon vein, knowing that her heart belongs to someone, yet you still forced her to marry someone of the dragon race she doesn't like. Isn't this harming your own race? In my opinion, the one who should be punished the most should be you. The group of people of the dragon race suddenly had sweat on their foreheads. Even the great elder and fourth elder's eyebrows were twitching. This guy was too daring. He actually dared to speak to the second elder like that? Fu Qi's face twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, "What did you call me? Bitch, 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 bitch." Yang Kai opened his mouth and scolded many times. He opened his mouth wide. Spittle flew everywhere, almost spraying onto Fu Qi's face. Fu Qi's face turned from green to white. His delicate body trembled. That terrifying killing intent had almost condensed into a substance. I advise you not to think of killing me. Yang Kai looked down at him. A mocking smile appeared on his face. That's right, if you really want to kill me. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to escape. But I am a rather timid person. I can't be frightened. If I can't control my strength and accidentally crush this little reptile, then this matter will not be easy to deal with. As if to prove that he was not lying, he slightly exerted strength in his hand. Fu Qi immediately cried out miserably. He felt that all the bones in his body were dislocated. He gritted his teeth. Large beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. His eyes were filled with resentment. When had he ever been humiliated like this? His hatred for Yang Kai couldn't be washed away by the entire Dragon Island's seawater. But now that he had fallen into Yang Kai's hands, he couldn't even muster up the strength to resist. I heard that your dragon race has very few members. Any dragon race member is an extremely precious clansman. I wonder what kind of position an 8th rank Thunder Dragon has in the second elder's heart? Fu Qi gritted his teeth. He shouted word by word. My dragon race and you today. We will not rest until one of us is dead. Zhu Qing's face instantly turned pale. Chapter 3058. Fight to the death. As soon as the second elder said this, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly changed. If someone else said this, it might just be a threat. But since it came from the second elder, then it really was a fight to the death. She was completely enraged, and only Yang Kai's blood could wash away the shame of the dragon race. Zhu Qing's face turned pale. She thought that by capturing Fu Qi, she would have room to negotiate with the elders. But who knew that the second elder would be forced to say such words? She panicked, and did not know what to do. She could only look at Yang Kai's tall back. You still dare to threaten me? Yang Kai's face turned ruthless, and without any explanation, he grabbed one of Fu Qi's arms. The huge difference in size made it seem like he was pinching a toothpick. What are you doing? Fu Qi was shocked. After saying this, Yang Kai suddenly exerted force. Blood splattered. Fu Qi was stunned for a moment, then let out a miserable howl. That arm was torn off by Yang Kai, and the cut was uneven. Fresh blood gushed out, and drops of pure dragon blood spurted out like a fountain. Every drop was sparkling and round, and it dripped onto the ground, instantly dyeing it red. Dragon blood was an extremely precious thing, and every drop was priceless. It could be used to refine pills, and it could also be consumed directly, especially for a descendant of the dragon like Li Jiao. Dragon blood was even more effective than dragon blood flowers. But at this moment, this extremely precious dragon blood was gushing out like it was free. The blood-red color impacted everyone's mind, causing them to tremble in fear. Hiss! A series of gasps could be heard. Everyone looked at him absent-mindedly, and their eyes were filled with shock and horror. Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong took a step forward together, and their faces suddenly became serious. Unparalleled dragon pressure enveloped Yang Kai. Previously, they did not say anything because Yang Kai had not done anything that would harm the interests of Dragon Island. They did not want to bully the weak out of respect for Zhu Qing. But now the situation was different. An 8th rank Thunder Dragon's arm was torn off by him, and as the Great Elder and 4th Elder of Dragon Island, they naturally could not sit by and do nothing. You dare! Yang Kai turned around and glared at Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong before grabbing Fu Qi's other arm. His expression was as ferocious as a beast that could devour people at any moment, and his eyes were emitting a terrifying light. Zhu Yan and Zhu Kong stopped, and the great elder said in a deep voice, "You are too much." Yang Kai shook his head. "It's your Dragon Islands too much. Right and wrong are in the hearts of the people. Let Fuqi go, and we can still talk." Yang Kai said without hesitation, "There is nothing to talk about with you. Let me and Qing, or leave, and I will let him live. Otherwise we will all die together." If what he said before was just a weak threat, then it now carried a lot of weight. He pulled off Fuqi's arm without saying anything, and it was clear that he was prepared to perish together with Fuqi, the great elder and second elder of the dragon race. No matter who it was, had the ability to take his life, but at the same time, Fuqi would definitely be buried with him. There were not many dragon race members, and they could not afford to lose them. "Let him go." The second elder gritted his teeth and shouted. Yang Kai did not say much, and only sneered, and exerted more force. Fuqi's other arm was also torn off. Yang Kai casually threw it to the side, and his eyes stared at Fuqi, full of provocation. "You threatened me, and I pulled off one of Fuqi's arms. You yelled at me, and I pulled off one of Fuqi's arms. Even without an arm, he still had a leg. Anyway, the dragon race had strong vitality, and this injury was not fatal." "Didn't you want to betroth Zhu Qing to Fuqi? I will kill Fuqi first, and see how you are going to betroth him." Facing the dragon race, one could not show any weakness. "If you are ruthless, I will be even more ruthless." Fuqi's face was green with anger. Even the things that happened more than 10 years ago did not make her so angry. But this time, Yang Kai's actions had undoubtedly caused her anger to rise to a new height. Both of his arms were torn off, and Fuqi was in so much pain that his face was pale, and his body was trembling. He was a member of the dragon race, and his body should be incomparably strong. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for anyone to tear off his arms like this. But Yang Kai had transformed into an 8-zhang-long dragon, and was extremely strong. Not to mention Fuqi, even if the great elder and second elder fell into his hands, he would be able to tear them off for the world to see. He lowered his head, and his eyes were full of hatred. "I will give you 10 breaths to consider. You can make your own decision." Yang Kai's gaze swept across the 3 great elders of the dragon race, and he started counting. He was obviously the weaker party, but his attitude was extremely high, as if he had everything under control. It was as if he was the ruler, and this made everyone feel uncomfortable. 10, 9, 8. His voice was very calm, and there was no trace of nervousness in it. His face was also filled with determination. Zhu Qing flashed out from the side, and stood beside Yang Kai. She took a deep breath, and her expression was also very determined. The husband and wife sang together, and they would share joys and sorrows, and live and die together. Zhu Qing did not say a word, but she had already expressed her attitude. 1. Yang Kai finished counting, and the 3 dragon race elders still did not say anything. It was not that they did not care about Fuqi's life, but the dragon race could not back down from today's matter. Otherwise, the reputation of the entire dragon race would be damaged. Yang Kai's strength forced them to give up on Fuqi. Zhu Yan sighed inwardly. He did not expect things to develop to this point. Now that he thought about it, the most important reason was that Yang Kai's actions were too extreme. But if it was anyone else who encountered this situation, they would not be able to get the best of both worlds. This was destined to become the tragedy of the dragon race, and Yang Kai was destined to die. Yang Kai lowered his head and stared at Zhu Qing, a grin appearing on his face, but combined with his half-dragon appearance, this grin became somewhat ferocious. "Qing, it looks like we'll have to share the same fate here today." Zhu Qing's hair fluttered in the wind, and she smiled slightly. With a companion on the road to hell, no one will be lonely. "Good," Yang Kai shouted, and his expression suddenly became serious. Complicated and mysterious syllables suddenly came out of his mouth. These syllables were extremely strange. The few hundred mortals only felt that it was strange when they heard it, but when these syllables entered the ears of the dragons, their hearts beat wildly, and their dragon blood started to boil. Dragon Race Secret Technique. Fu Qi's expression changed. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "You actually learned the Dragon Race's secret technique?" Yang Kai stared at her and did not reply. His voice gradually became louder and louder, like a true dragon's roar. It spread to the 9 heavens. The ancestral dragon's origin inheritance. Zhu Yan revealed a look of realization. His face was filled with shock. The inheritance of the Holy Spirit was not passed down orally. It was hidden in one's bloodline. When the bloodline awakened to a certain extent, this inheritance would also be awakened. The dragon race was the head of the Holy Spirits. They naturally could not avoid this rule. The pure-blooded dragon race would gradually grasp some secret techniques that could only be used by the dragon race, along with the improvement of their bloodline. Yang Kai was currently using the dragon race's secret technique, and it was an extremely high-end secret technique. From the looks of it, he had obviously obtained some inheritance belonging to the dragon race, and the origin of the inheritance was naturally the ancestral dragon's origin in his body. Zhu Yan was shocked because of this. Yang Kai had obtained the dragon race's inheritance. Didn't that mean that he had already obtained the acknowledgement of the ancestral dragon's origin? No wonder he was able to undo Zhu Qing's seal without anyone noticing. Zhu Qing's seal was planted by the second elder, and he had also used the dragon race's secret technique. From Yang Kai's current performance, he indeed had the ability to undo the seal. If that was the case, then he was no longer a human. He could be said to be a member of the dragon race, and an extremely important member. Zhu Yan understood this matter, so how could Fu Qi not think of it? She couldn't help but be in disbelief. She had previously planned to keep Yang Kai and find an opportunity to take away the ancestral dragon's origin in his body. But now it seemed that this idea could no longer be realized. The prerequisite for taking away was to be complete. Now that the ancestral dragon's origin had already acknowledged this human, and had even fused with him, how could she take it away? Even if she was lucky enough to succeed, there would still be some missing parts. And this would be an unacceptable loss to the entire dragon race. Only the dragon race could use the dragon race's secret technique, and this was an unbreakable iron rule. The syllables that came out of Yang Kai's mouth were extremely ancient dragon language. Others might not understand it, but how could the dragon race not understand it? In an instant, all the members of the dragon race were shocked, and the 3 elders were in a daze. Before they could react, Fu Qi, who had been held in Yang Kai's hand, suddenly screamed. His entire body trembled violently. Dragon's punishment. In his red robe, many members of the dragon race were shocked. His originally resentful eyes suddenly became absent-minded, as though their blood had frozen, as though he had been struck after the death of a dragon race member. Immediately after, would not disappear, a bolt of lightning but would return to the dragon's and a crackling dragon and turn into a chaotic origin Fu Qi's head. When a female dragon opened its mouth and roared, the dragon race would hold a ceremony to communicate with the dragon's tomb. But under Yang Kai's dragon origin power in the dragon's tomb, but to be pulled out transferred into the new baby. The dragon's eyes were filled with pain and fear. Although the death of a dragon race member was a loss, the entire dragon's head was pulled out. Their foundation. This was however, if their dragon was destroyed, everything would turn to his body. This was also the reason why the dragon race had always been rare. And this was worse than death. Every dragon race member that died would leave behind their origin, contributing their last bit of strength to the continuation of the dragon race. Losing a part of their origin might mean that there would be one less dragon race in the future. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.